Hello everyone, and welcome to this live stream. And this is a very special one, because I am here with a few of the OpenRCT2 developers. I am here with Duncan's Pumpkin.
Hello. How's it going? I'm one of the developers, as Marcel mentioned. Been
Yes.
here from the start.
And I'm here with Gymnasiast.
Hi, I'm Gymnasiast, also one of the developers.
And with Intel Orca.
Hi, you might also know me as Ted, and I started the project in 2014.
It's a long time ago.
Yep.
So we're gonna talk a lot about OpenRCT2 tonight, and of course the new save format, and gonna be answering your questions, gonna explain a lot. First question, is the sound balance okay and everything? You know, can you hear them as loud as you can hear me? Stuff like that. Also a lot of subs. Thank you Jalman and Dudder. Sound is fine, good. Duncan seemed a bit quiet. Duncan, you were a little quiet in your intro, yeah? Can you speak up? Or were you quiet?
I don't know. I can maybe turn it up in Discord.
I can turn you up if I need to. Hang on, I'll turn you up. There you go, 120%.
Okay. You able to hear me now?
Yes. Thank you for the bits, Mr. AMD. Okay. So, you know, we have time to slowly get into this and get people joining and stuff. But I'll first ask a bit of a general question, I suppose. Ted, you know, why did you start OpenRCT2 all those years ago?
Well, everyone already knew this. Well, I guess all the inspiration came from OpenRCT2. That was a thing I think I found out in 2005. That's probably when it started. And I just thought the same thing should happen with RCT2.
I didn't actually know that. I'm a bad fan. But yeah, you know, you've been quite successful, I suppose. This thing is bigger than OpenTTD has probably ever been.
I don't know about that, but I never thought it would be this successful. I didn't think I'd ever find other people that could contribute and implement the entire game.
Yeah, I think we've had about, I don't know, 500 contributors or something. There was an entire list somewhere.
Yeah, and all varying different amounts, of course.
Yeah, you know, you got the devs, which you were 3 of, and, you know, I showed it in my last video. But then you have, like, a lot of people just did a little bit here and there.
Yeah, I mean, you could say just raising a bug report is a contribution. Some
Yeah,
form or another.
I suppose. Okay, question from Happy Dreads. Can we, I know the answer, but it's good to address it still. Can we support the developers in any way for OpenRCT for those who are new to it?
So the project doesn't directly accept any donations, but the individual developers have their own sponsorship available over GitHub.
So
There's
you can
also always the way of contributing by reporting bugs or doing translation work. That's also very welcome. So yeah, don't forget about that. That's I would say.
Yeah, I suppose that's the biggest one, because no monetary donations. I've heard about that before, because isn't this the first time that people have asked about it? But just playing the game, reporting the bugs, stuff like that, that just helps massively. But you did talk about like individual sponsorships. I didn't actually know about that.
GitHub recently introduced the ability to regularly donate to any person you want.
Okay, so if I like what Gymnasiast is doing, then I can just give him some money and tell him, you know, work some more on it.
Yeah, and this makes sense for bounties. I mean, you might have heard of bug bounty, but I guess it's just any kind of bounty, meaning if you want a particular feature implemented, you might want to sponsor a particular developer to do that. I know some plugins have gone through that.
Ah, yeah, I wouldn't mind paying for some plugins that will be useful, but you know, maybe we can talk about that in private sometime.
I was just going to say, any money I receive through my sponsorship will just go towards the domain name cost.
Ah, fair enough. Okay, yeah, so I'm getting quite a lot of donations. Thank you, Joman, Major Geeks, Kangi, Mr. MDO already got you, and Bishop Beater for the sub. I suppose, yeah, part of those are for the team as a general. Maybe we can talk about something later. I saw some question earlier, and I suppose it's a very good one to start with. When did you start thinking about kind of a new save format?
It was very early on then, and that, I mean, there was we even started talking about this when we didn't even have the full implementation. I think that even in one of the first round tables, it was mentioned, or at least sideways. So yeah, that would be 2015 probably.
Yeah, we've always known that the SV6 format was going to be sort of hindering us from making certain improvements to the game. So we always thought that eventually we would have to change the format to be able to bring in some of the more wanted features that people want.
Yeah, okay, but that's very early on. Did you know that, obviously didn't know that it would happen, but at what point were you like, okay, this is a thing that we are pretty sure that we can actually achieve?
Probably ages and ages ago. I think back in like 2017, after we had finished implementing the game, we knew that we could change it. We just wanted to make sure that we weren't going to change it and then have to change it again.
Okay, that's fair enough. It took a long time to implement, but it's finally here, and we have a server setup, which I'm gonna join now. There we go. Oh, hey, the stuttering issue from earlier seems to be gone. Good. So now we can actually show off features. I'm on this server with the developers, of course. Music could be a bit lower. Alright, fair enough. Let me see. Options. That's there. Okay, that's just the sound from the game. Okay, well, tell me something about the behind the scenes. You started with it. What is all the stuff that needed to be done? Because I don't understand it, and probably my viewers understand it even less because they're even less involved.
Sure. I primarily work on the entities, so I'll describe that, and perhaps one of the other team members can talk about the other parts of the game. But the entities are anything like the peeps walking about, or the vehicles which you see moving about, or even the balloons. They're entities. Basically, anything which moves is an entity in this game. And the entities are stored in this nice big array, fixed size of 100 bytes per entity, and it's all a big mishmash of different types of entity in there. So the first thing we had to do was sort of split things up so that the different types of entity were stored in different arrays. And this meant that you could quickly refer to different entities, so you get better performance. Although, due to issues, it's still not done. So there is a massive performance penalty right now on entities because I haven't finished that work.
Yeah, I do notice that. In my last video I have a few shots where I have like 50,000 guests, and it's quite a lag fest.
Yeah, so a lot of people say in game design that you should never use a linked list in a computer game. Well, the entities are a massive linked list. So we know it's an issue, and yeah, we are working on getting rid of it, but it's just the way that everything's all interlinked. It's very hard to sort of split this. But although it's not really tied to the new save format, that was something we were working on at the same time, and that's the reason why we're now able to increase the entities, the amount of entities you can have. It's because we've been fiddling away with making everything get into the correct sort of storage. One of the other things that we had was staff and guests. They were all stored in the same type, and it was loads of queries. Whenever you tried to do anything as a guest or a staff member, you always had to be checking: am I a guest? Am I a staff? And it was absolutely tons of pointless work which didn't need to happen. So we've split those, and that's one thing which took quite a while to do. but you never see that, and it doesn't. Nobody will ever appreciate how much effort I've spent trying to split these things up. But just know that if you don't see anything changing, that's a good sign. That's me doing my job correctly.
Yeah, well, you mentioned a good thing there, because you say, nobody ever notices it. And I suppose that was me at the start as well. 2016, 2017, I got into this and started playing the game a lot. And I would be like, why can't we have this new save format, even back then? When's it coming out? Yeah, it's taking a lot of work. And then 2 years later, when's it coming out? And people always, eventually I started to understand it, but people will always not know just how much work it takes. And there's also the thing, you guys are very good at what you do, but ultimately, you're still doing this in your spare time, and you only have so much spare time.
Definitely. And
I also made the mistake of making several estimations about when it was finished, and then of course missing them by years. I think the first estimation that we did was for 2016 or something like that, or something ridiculous. And I think then I have announced the year of the Linux desktop, the year of the new save format, about every year. Until I finally turned out to be right, and it was 2021 after all. But
only 6 years after you first thought about it, but it's here now, and arguably at a good time, because OpenRCT2 is bigger than it's ever been.
Yeah, I think another advantage is that a lot of that during those years, a lot of stuff. It became obvious that we needed to do certain things in a certain way, and perhaps in other ways than we initially thought. I mean, all the whole entity refactor, that is something that I'm not mistaken, only becoming obvious in recent years. So if we had introduced in, say, 2018, it would probably have lacked a lot. It wouldn't be as fully featured as it is now, and we might even have made mistakes that would require us to make a new format, a .park2 format straight away. So this delay has ultimately made the new save format a lot better, and also the code a lot more prepared to actually take advantage of everything.
Occasionally we did make some mistakes doing that, because I think at one point we increased the number of guest spawns unintentionally. We were just refactoring the ability to be able to add more. However, we forgot to actually add in the limit of 2, which meant that when you made a scenario, you could place maybe 8 guest spawns, and that would work until you save the game, and then you would only end up saving 2.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So you place a lot, but not everything would save. It's kind of similar to how it would work if it still works. I'm not sure if you actually already took care of that. You raised the limit for the number of laps from 7 to 20 a long time ago, but if you saved it, it would save the number of laps mod 7. So if you did 20, you saved the ride and you placed it down, you got 4, because 20 mod 7, is that 4? I don't know, but at least you didn't get 20 back.
Yeah. The way it all works is that you take a SV6 or SV4 and we import all the data from that file into the game, into memory. And when it's in memory, it's in a very different structure to how it's stored in the file. Meaning you could go way past the limits. But when you export it back into an SV6 again, it's obviously got to cramp the memory back into those small bytes or bits, and that's when you lose your quantity.
Ah, yeah, that does make sense. I've never really thought about why it would happen, but that, I always figured, the max is 7, so that it saves it mod 7 I think it was that. That makes sense.
I think that was in the only in the track designs file that it was mod 7 or because I don't think that was a thing an SV6 limit but only a TD6 but
Oh
not
well,
quite sure.
it was some limit somewhere at least.
Yeah, probably a tech design limit, which has a completely different format to SV6. So it has some even if something will work in SV6, it might not in TD6.
Is that something
And
you're
yeah,
thinking about, like doing like you did .park, doing like a .track or something?
definitely, that's on our list. It's just we haven't had time for that yet.
Yeah, I suppose that takes a little bit
And
less time, but it's still a lot of work.
yeah, and I should also point out to a point that Ted made earlier about the loading stuff from SV6 or SV4 files into memory, which is another different structure. That is true, but initially it was the same structure as SV6. So when we initially implemented, everything was tied to the same limit. So we had to change all of these structures in memory to be bigger and more versatile. And we had to do that for everything before we really could do the new save format. For example, in order to allow the new path, all the path changes that we'll surely talk about later on. And also to take the increased limits, we had to change all the tile elements, the structure. It had to be twice as big and get all kind of changes. So we had to change the in-memory structure and also change a lot of cases where the code modifies it. There's a lot of assumptions that Rollercoaster Tycoon made that the limit will always be, I'll say, 16 paths, which obviously isn't true anymore.
Yeah, and I
So,
suppose if
yeah.
if you're reading past that when it doesn't expect it, you might get like entirely different things, which may do glitches or it may crash the game
Yeah,
or stuff
yeah.
like that, which isn't very it isn't very useful.
No, not quite.
So,
So, oh, sorry.
Gymnasiast sounds very Dutch. He is Dutch. His name is Dutch as well. It was funny, I had a few people comment on the video that I pronounced his name wrong. No, I didn't. Anyway, do you have anything more to say, or can we move on to the point of why you can't export as SV6 anymore?
We can speak for ages on it, on pretty much every single item. I mean, originally I was just talking about entities here, but we can move on to talking about tile elements or objects or the map size or any of these items. But no, yeah, sure, we can move on to that.
Will there be a chance to ask questions later? Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm obviously reading the chat, and if I think there are too. If there's something interesting, we'll address it, of course. But yeah, you say you could talk about the map size. I think that's interesting. Can you say something more about that?
So obviously the map size in the original game was 254 by 254, which is just a bit under 256, which is a power of 2, which if you do any programming, you realize most limits are related to powers of 2. So in this game, the border of the map has 2 units. It's to do with drawing. We could probably get rid of it, to be honest, but it currently exists and we haven't ever changed it. So that's the reason why it's 254 instead of 256. But anyway, to be able to change the limit to the new limit, which is 999 by 999, we had to change absolutely every single reference to tiles in the whole game. There was references to tiles absolutely everywhere across the whole of the code base. So this is an area where contributors we've had hundreds of contributors work towards this goal. A lot of people might not have realised that they've been helping work towards this goal of increasing the map size, but changing the map size is definitely one of the most recognisable differences in the new save format. But it's also one of the features which has required a ridiculous amount of work from hundreds of different people.
That's interesting, because I would never have thought that specifically would take a lot of work.
Yeah, you'd think it was just, IC256 here, increase that to 999. No.
Yeah, change a few references here and there and it's fine.
No. A huge amount of changes had to be made for that.
There were a lot of magic numbers, meaning a named constant was not used in all the places. Had that been the case, it might have not taken so long.
I just increased the map to 500 by 500, a little bit larger. Look at the size of this thing. It's massive. It's absolutely
People are wondering
massive.
why we chose 999.
Actually, it's 998.
It is. Certainly when I implemented it, though, it was 999. So somehow between me increasing the map size and it actually getting merged it to develop, it's lost.
Yeah, I remember it being 999, like the test beta version half a year ago.
Oh, okay. You can back up my claim then that it was originally 999. So I don't know how or who is to blame for it now being 998.
I think it was probably me, because I brought in quite a few of the map size changes earlier on.
I'm sure it's just
So I
a
probably
great a less than.
Yeah,
needing
most
to
likely.
be a less than or equal or something. But the reason I chose 999 is because when I show 1000 by 1000 in the box, it cut off because the box isn't big enough for 1000 x 1000.
So it's actually the reason that I thought it was. I was talking about it with Ollie, and we were talking about why it wouldn't be like larger, and I was like, oh, it might just be the box.
Well, if the box was bigger than it was, I would have probably made it 1024 by 1024, which is only very slightly bigger than the current limit.
Yeah.
And I could have just made the box bigger on the map window, but I was too lazy to do that.
I mean, you can still do it in the future. It's a very minor change. But then again, who's gonna need a bigger map than 999 by 999? Like, really?
We'll see.
I'm sure someone will.
I'm not sure everyone will necessarily fill up the entire map, but they may just like to have the edge of the map sort of either car park or scenery, forest.
But still, that's massive.
It is, but I don't think it will be a performance concern if it's just static tile elements that are outside the park. So you could have a 256 by 256 park perimeter, and then the rest of the entire 1000 by 1000 map just full of trees, and it shouldn't be a problem in terms of performance.
Shouldn't. We say it shouldn't be a performance issue,
Yeah,
but
no.
there are some areas which currently are quite inefficient and iterate the whole map. So
Yeah, so one of those things is placing track design, and
Like
the problem is
placing
that
a
there are
safe
a lot of
zone.
a lot of things iterate the entire map in one single game tick, which is quite expensive when you've got a map that size. So we just need to make sure that there aren't any bits of code that are iterating the entire map.
Well, let's see, because we currently have a map that size, and in the new multiplayer, you can now place saved design. So let's try to save a mango and place a mango mancher. Oh yeah, that's very laggy. That's basically unplayable.
don't use that word.
Well, it's only for a short period of time when you're actually placing the track.
Yeah,
So
I mean, that's true.
I wouldn't say it's unplayable, but
No, it's basically like if you want to play it in the exact position, it might be difficult. That's what I meant. It's unplayable during the lag, but now that I've placed it, everything's fine.
But I suppose the question is, would rather we delay the new save format to fix that bug?
Probably not. It's not very important. Especially if you're building a park of 999 by 999 anyway, you're probably going to design your own coasters. So you're probably not going to place down that many tracked rides and stuff. Max says, might it be an idea to use the GPU to parallelize the workflow rather than going through the whole grid of the map with the CPU? Do it in like 1000 chunks which are all done at the same time.
Well, that's a lot easier said than done. And it's not particularly useful for anyone that doesn't have a dedicated GPU.
Alright, yeah, because that's the thing, of course, that you have to take into account. People
GPU
might be playing this on
is
weaker systems.
Yeah, GPU work's very complicated to achieve. You have to effectively write a dedicated program that you download to the GPU, and that will then run it. So it's you can't very easily synchronize between the GPU and the CPU. You have to get a large task that the GPU will perform, and then you get your results after it's performed that task. So it's not so good for game logic. It's much better at sort of very large number crunching tasks.
Okay.
Or graphics.
Okay, so I think we've talked a bit about, things under the hood and stuff. Now, a question that a lot of people have been asking, which more people might be asking, actually having trouble with, considering what Duncan did with the messing it up so that the SV6 files couldn't even be opened. But why can't you export? Why can't you simply have a button that says save as .sv6?
Well, you can kind of. I mean, we had that up until last week, because what we haven't really told you is that internally the game's been running on our equivalent of park file for years now, and we've been exporting to the SV6 format and making sure that whenever you try to modify something, it keeps it within the SV6 format. But internally, everything's set up for our new park file format. So, yeah, we used to have that code until we deleted it. But the big thing which changed when we brought out the new save format was we split up a lot of things which used to be together, such as the footpaths, splitting them up from the underlying railing system. So that's a fundamental change which we can't reverse without losing information. So there's no lossy there's no correct way of doing that in an SV6 file.
You sort of get the effect of track design actually. So if you try saving a track design that uses your mixed footpaths, you'll lose that information in the track design because the CD6 format cannot store separated railings and surface of the footpath.
That's a good one. I hadn't thought of that. Not that I save track designs often with path, but yeah, I suppose you just get whatever supports fit with the path that you have. The standard supports for that kind of path.
And the amount of code just to do that is a lot because you have to map every new type of thing to the original type of thing that existed in SV6 or DD6.
And because of all that extra code, you can't suddenly say, even if every footpath that you have has its original support, even if you don't use anything new, then it's still quite a job to save to SV6.
Yeah, well, there's also some other features. I mean, things like the invisibility bit for elements, but also all the tens of limits that are now higher. You need to. It's not that easy, really, to make sure that you track every single limit, ensure that the user does not go over it, which complicates matters also a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
suppose. The invisibility thing is interesting, by the way, because I noticed that earlier today when I was making a little video for tomorrow. I can just show that a little bit. For those who know, know the tile inspector and have worked with it, if you select a tile, then you can press this button, which looks like the map icon, and that would insert a corrupt element above it, so it would become invisible. But now when you do that, it's just a little thing here that has a check mark, and it does the same, but you no longer get corrupt elements, which is nice because you can't accidentally corrupt an element that you didn't want to corrupt if you move it around. So yeah, that is definitely an upgrade.
and one of the other features of that is because that's now a little simple flag on the tile element, we can make drawing modes which ignore that, or draw invisible items slightly differently. So you could mark everything invisible and then say you wanted to make a little modification to the invisible part, or you can make that visible just with a click of a button, everything in the path,
Oh,
and reverse it.
of course.
We don't have that feature in right now, but that's something we'll
No, there's
definitely
a lot of features that aren't in now, but that could be implemented in the future. That's very useful. Could you also, I don't know, like say every invisible tile suddenly render it, but entirely red?
Yeah, you could certainly do that.
It would be like if you have you seen the paint debug options?
I think I have. Hang on. I suppose debug, show paint debug window. Yeah, white paths. I've used that a lot in the past.
Okay, so it's being covered up by the Discord overlay at the moment, but
Oh, yeah.
you get 3 checkboxes.
5.
One of it was, oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot about the extra ones. But they show you some diagnostic information about the bound boxes that sprites drawn take up.
Yeah.
And you can also show whether footpaths have a wide flag set. So it could be just another checkbox on that window that says show invisible elements, and that'd
yeah.
be good for diagnosing perhaps any issues you have.
Yeah, if you have any forgotten invisible elements anywhere or something like that. It actually would have been very useful for the video I made for tomorrow. So yeah, that's definitely a very useful feature for the future.
Yeah. So just on that, we've got rid of corrupt tile elements. They're completely gone now, and when you load up an SV6 file, the corrupt tile element gets deleted, and it marks the tile which it used to make invisible. It marks that as invisible. But that's one of the features, which is a one-way conversion.
And that's why exporting would be so difficult, because we'd have to insert those corrupt elements back, and that would take up more tile elements than originally you had.
Yeah,
and it's prone to going wrong as well. You don't have any good way of testing exporting. You kind of have to think of exporting to SV6 along the same lines as exporting to SV4. Can you imagine exporting an RCT2 part to RCT1?
Yeah. So for those who don't know, SV4 is the save format RCT1 uses, and also I think like TD4 and stuff like that for tracks. And there are so many things that you can't do in RCT1 that you can do. I mean, floating scenery wasn't even a thing in RCT1.
Well, it's not in the interface, but it was technically possible. You just needed to have external tools. The new element has a lot of parks where they did that, which must have taken ages to do, but it is possible. And I've also had to fix a few parks. I mean, I did a lot of import stuff for Roller Coaster Tycoon 1, so I've become a bit more familiar with the format than I perhaps would like. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, little fun question in between from 3DS Bacon. What's your favorite coaster type in the game? Duncan.
Well, to be honest, I don't really play the game very often. So I really like the hybrid coaster that X7 123
Oh, the hybrid
made.
coaster is a good one. Let me see if I can quickly show it off. Hybrid coaster. There we go. That's a massive hybrid coaster. That's a custom coaster type indeed by X7. Gymnasiast.
I think the bobsleigh coaster actually. I know you dislike it, but because it's not efficient at all. But
Hey,
yeah,
I like the stand-up
like
coaster and it's
hybrids and,
terrible, so...
yeah, fine. I think it's the bobsleigh coaster. Then I also I added an online photo to it as well to make it a bit more useful in general gameplay. But yeah.
I do like the way it looks. So it's not all bad. It's at least something unique, unlike the hypercoaster, which I don't like. And in Torca.
Obviously, the Heartline coaster. You can't get better than that.
Oh, come on.
Well, on a
Someday
serious note,
we'll make it not suck with the ratings.
Please, never
And then,
change it.
and then your career will be over, Marcel.
I never make it good. I love that it's bad. It makes the game better. It gives it character. It just... That was a great answer.
My second favourite would have to be then the Giga Coaster.
Yeah, coaster
Mainly
is
because
really
it looks so good, but also it's very easy to build a Giga Coaster. The only problem, obviously, is that, well, at least in the default game, there were no inversions, or at least not many. So it would be really nice to have inversions eventually in that style.
Yeah, well, X7 has been working on that, of course. There's an interesting thing about inversions, and I've said this on stream a couple of times before, and you might, be aware of it as well. In the code of the Giga Coaster, there is an exception that if it has at least one inversion, then you don't have to fulfill some of the stat requirements, just like a lot of other coasters like the Looping and the Twister Coaster have. But it doesn't have access to inversions. So it might at some point have been planned, and that code is just a relic of that.
Either that or Chris Sawyer copied and pasted the stat from another coaster and changed it slightly, did not remove that check.
That's also very possible, and that is a very programmer thing to do, of course. Because we're all lazy.
It does surprise me that no inversions were added to it, given the number of real-world coasters in that style that do have it.
It's a shame we can't ask Chris Sawyer. He's a very reserved and private person. Okay, so let's see what else we had, because we made a little document with things to talk about. I suppose we could go over some of the features that have all been increased. So there's obviously a lot of limits. First off, there's the sprite limit. Let me just spawn in a lot of guests. Although Ted corrected me earlier today that it was entity limit.
Yeah, so we call it the entity limit because it gets confusing calling things sprite. When we also use sprite to mean the images that everything uses, that's also called a sprite. So it was getting very confusing when people talked about sprites. You didn't know if they were talking about the things moving about or the actual images.
Okay, that does make sense. Oh, can you mute your Discord notifications? Oh, hang on, that might be the ones on... Oh yeah, that's the one coming in that I use on the browser. It's a complicated setup. Let me see if I can just mute that. If I can just mute my internet. Let's see, I think this is the correct one. Can you guys talk so I don't accidentally mute you? Okay, yeah, that's fine. I can still hear you.
Okay.
Yes, I think I've muted my internet now. You know what? There we go. Now everything, all of that should be muted. Okay, there we go. So yeah, we now have 8,300 guests in the park. That's not enough. That was still possible. There we go. A lot more spawned. That cheat is wonderful, by the way, the large tram. It's a very old cheat, but it's been absolutely essential for me. So thank you to whoever implemented that. I know it was one of you.
Well, it would have been inspired by the original 8 cars trainer that could do it. And it's a very useful cheat for testing.
Yeah.
So that's why it's still there.
I love it. Or just, if I quickly need like 1,000 guests for something, I don't know, to have guests on a ride in a test park or whatever.
Exactly, yeah.
And let's see, what are the other limits? There's, of course, I only briefly talked about it in the video, but I can't show that off right now. You know what? I'll quickly go into a single player park to show that off. I'll rejoin the server later. Because what you can do, you know what? I'll go into Alt and Towers. If you do object selection, let's see. No, not options. Object selection. You can now select a lot more. If I zoom in a bit, you used to be able to select 128 rides. You can now select 2047, which is a lot. Easily enough for all the vanilla rides. Why 2047?
It's 1 less than a power of 2.
Okay, but why that specific power of 2?
It's just picked at random, really.
Fair enough.
You get some issues when you have too much rides loaded, because rides have lots of images or sprite, and there's still quite a low image limit in the game, which we're working on getting rid of.
Yeah, I've already had issues with that before, you know, the increased limits with the multi-dimension, of course.
Yeah.
One of the common questions we get is why we've not added a select all button to.
Yeah.
Or can we add a select all button to the object manager? And well, I've come up with at least 3 reasons myself. First of all, I'm not sure why you need to select everything when you can go into the object selection dialog at any time throughout your game. I suppose if you're playing a multiplayer game, you might want to select them all initially, because you cannot select an object in the object selection during a multiplayer game, although we could look into supporting that at some point.
Yeah, also, if you want to just quickly select a lot, you can go filter and then do non-selected only and just spam. If you want to be really quick about it, choose an auto-clicker. You can click 50 times a second. You know, this is fairly quick, and if you have a lot of custom rides, like, you don't need to add all of them.
But every time, so for every object you're selecting, that means it's getting loaded into memory. So if you were to start off and select every single object that you have, every single object would get loaded into memory. It would make your park file instantly a lot bigger and take a lot longer to load.
Okay, so that's why. Yeah, because that's actually a thing, because I noticed that my biggest park files are not my own, but they are by some community member that always had a lot of custom rides in their scenarios, and those are by far the biggest save files that I have, because that of course all needs to be loaded.
Yeah, that applies if it's custom objects, and but it will take a long time to load, regardless of whether it's a custom or vanilla object.
Yeah, but it also increases the size, so...
Yeah, and as I say, it's more appropriate to add the object as and when you first need it, rather than all at the start of the game. And then, of course, the final reason is that you will hit the image limit.
Okay, but that's going to be increased, right, at some point?
Yeah, that's what Duncan mentioned. So the limit is just because every image in the game is the identity of what an image is stored as a 32-bit number. But some of the bits in that 32-bit number are reserved for what color the image is to be drawn as. And there's 2 different colors that you can set for each image. That leaves only, I can't remember, 12 bits or something like that for actually the ID of the image.
It's OX7FFFF. I don't know what that is in actual normal numbers.
Yeah, and
500,000.
if you add enough objects that have a lot of images, and it will go above that number, and then it will still load the park, but you'll get loads of random images appearing everywhere or not appearing.
Yeah, the most common one is the multidimensional coaster trains rendering as, I don't know, like surface tile elements or whatever. That's the thing I've seen.
And that's because the multi-dimension coaster has hundreds of images in that one object.
I heard actually a theory of why the multi-dimension coaster doesn't have access to sloped turns is that would just require so many images. And
yeah, probably.
We can't ask Chris, but that might be the reason.
I expect it was. If it was a fully 3D game, multi-dimension coaster would have no problem because you could just dynamically change the shape.
Yeah.
But to have pre-rendered sprites for every single combination of the vehicle tilt direction, and then the angle of the seats, with and without the guests sitting on them.
And that's funny because angling the seats does nothing. I mean, it rotates, but it has no effect. Also, a lot of all limits have been, you can select up to 255 themes now. I'll just select all of them quickly. You can have, if I go to advanced, you can have 2047 small scenery objects. By the way, interesting, I've selected all themes, but for some reason 7 scenery objects aren't selected. Anyway, you can have 2047 large scenery objects and walls, 255 banners, 255 path, 255 path things. It's a lot. You can do 255 path ornaments. You can still only have 1 entrance type, which makes sense, I suppose, and 1 water type. Oh, that would be cool. It's probably possible. Yeah, Max is just saying it. I thought about it as well. What if you could have different areas of the park with different water colors?
No,
I thought you were going to talk about entrances. Entrances are a lot easier to have more than one of, but we would need to provide an interface where you select the type of entry.
Okay, that's basically only that.
As for water, that's probably perhaps one of the most currently impossible things. You know how it doesn't show you a preview of the water there?
Yes.
That is because you have to change the whole palette of the game in order to change the watercolor.
Yeah,
and
that's a good thing, yeah.
You can't have one side of the screen be one palette and the other half of the screen be a different palette. And even if you could, what if you've got one tile and next to another tile with a different watercolor? That would be even harder to achieve.
Yeah, I suppose, eventually if you, I don't know, that's a thing I thought about earlier today, actually. What could you increase the amount of colors, which I suppose would also make having different water colors easier. Is that a thing that's possible at all?
We would need a big overhaul of the way it draws the game. Currently, it's drawing the whole game with 8-bit pixels. Which means that you can only reference 256 different colors. It's actually less than that, though, because a bunch of color indexes are reserved for remapping.
Okay, it's not a very important thing, not something I necessarily wanted, because I love the way the game looks currently. It might even make the game worse, but if you used many more colors and change the color of the object and stuff, but it was a thing I was thinking about. Also, another thing. Oh yeah, go on.
Oh yeah, something I want to add about the water thing. It's I mean, that meant it was tied to a pallet. Well, specifically, waters are pallets. I mean, the game calls them water, and that's also how the only four things are indeed changing the water. But it changed the whole palette of the game, and lots of people, from New Elements, for example, have actually used that to create all other kinds of palettes. You can probably see that if you
Yeah,
use
I have-
custom. Yeah,
I have quite a
So-
few. This is salmon pink.
yeah. Well, for example, you see, it's changing everything in the game, not just the water, and yeah. So basically, the game calls them water selection. It's just a palette selection, and yeah, you can only have one of that. That's
Yeah, I
So,
suppose that would
yeah.
indeed need a lot of overhauling and stuff. You basically need to code an entire new game.
Yeah, and then you'd have to think about how you're going to import that, because how do you know how the person who selected that order, did they mean for it to affect everything, or did they not mean for it to affect everything?
Yeah, well, I suppose you could have, like, what I was thinking about is, you know, some kind of interface that allows you to pick a certain palette, and you know, you could make like that tile be that palette, but you know, that's something that may be possible, but not like realistic.
The lighting, the experimental lighting, has a hybrid mode effectively. So while most of the game's still 8-bit color, the actual lighting effects are 32-bit color.
Okay, that's interesting.
But that's already got loads of limitations. For example, all the lighting effects are drawn on the very top of the game, which is why you can see it over the top of the toolbars and why it changes the color of all the toolbars.
Okay, yeah.
So a new rendering engine would allow us to improve that so that you can have the lighting effects be properly layered.
Okay, but I suppose making a new rendering engine is a lot of work.
Yeah, you'd have
Yeah.
to change a lot of the drawing code to use the new engine. But
Okay.
it may happen at some point. I don't know when OpenTCD implemented their 32-bit renderer. At some point they did though, and that's how they now have the 32-bit graphic packs.
Okay. Another thing I wanted to talk about is, you know, you have a very wide scenery window here with all the themes I selected. It's still not wide enough. There's still a few themes that are under
Yeah.
question mark.
Yeah, so when you every window can only have a maximum of 64 interactable elements. So that's already at the max. That's what's defined how many tabs are on the top there. So what
Okay.
we'll probably do is we'll probably cut off maybe 3 or 4 of those tabs on the right, and then have like a left or right arrow, and then you could maybe scroll to the right, and that would be sort of dropping off tabs from the left hand side and bringing on tabs on the right hand side, and that wouldn't hit the limit. It's quite
that sounds interesting, yeah.
Might also need to order it by last recently used.
yeah.
Well, you know, if you order it by last recently used, that's gonna, I suppose, throw off a lot of people's workflow when they're used
Well-
to the ordering.
To be honest, I think the whole window could do with a big change.
Yeah, it could probably do with some sort of input box where you could type in
Yeah,
something.
a filter would be useful, and the ability to select between, I don't know, alphabetical or last recently used.
Yeah, but I think it's, you know, with all those things, it's a thing that, you know, people like change, they like innovation, but they don't like too much change. So I think that, you know, as with all those things, it's a useful thing to also keep the option just to keep it as it is here. Because people are probably very used to how this works, and if they download OpenRCT2 and everything is different, then it's going to be quite a little bit of adapting, and they might not keep using it because they don't like it.
Yeah, so we could have a button that just switches to the alternative mode.
Yes.
But
Okay.
at the same time, we don't really like to support multiple things when it just bloats the code base with lots of different paths which need to be tested or get ignored and become a bit rubbish.
That's also a thing. It's a lot of pros and cons to everything, I suppose.
One example of that is the research tab, which exists in both the financial window and the research window. And I think the code is just duplicated twice for that.
Oh yeah, I have 2 of them open right now.
Exactly, and so if you open the second tab on both, that's it. Pretty sure that's just duplicated code. It's not sharing the same code.
Okay, and that's not very inefficient. At my university courses, that was a very big thing. Duplicating the code, that was a big no-no.
Yeah, and we could remove it from the finance window and just assume that everyone prefers having a separate research window.
Yeah, but that might not be true.
Yeah.
I guess we could also just add a button in the finance window to open the tab.
Yeah, if this button in the finance window opens the research funding tab instead of showing this, then I think it would be fine. But if it suddenly disappeared there, then, I would obviously know my way around it. But I think quite a few people might be like, hey, where's it gone? This is buggy.
I thought it used to do that in vanilla RCT2.
I wouldn't know. It's been about 5 years since I used that.
Vanilla RCT2 never had the research window. I think it was split between the finance window and the ride window.
That's
right?
correct, yes. The separate research window was a thing from Rollercoaster Tycoon 1, which...
Oh, there you go. That's what I'm thinking.
Everyone who extensively played Rollercoaster Tycoon 1 really missed that window, and people who didn't know what the fuss was about, but yeah.
Yeah, the things I don't remember, because it's been so long since I used anything else but OpenRCT2, except for the rare occasions where I need to have some footage of Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 vanilla.
You do have to enable this when you install OpenRCT2, though. You don't get that research button by default.
Really? Let me see. Show toolbar buttons for... Oh yeah, there's a research one. Yeah, I have just all of them except chat enabled. I've had that for years. Okay, so let's see. Are there any other limits that I forgot to talk about? Let's see. Entities, tile elements. Oh yeah, that's a good, a fun thing. So I'll load up my longest coaster, because that's a good one, because that's where I have actually maxed it out. Let's see. It's probably called the longest coaster. Let's see. The longest coaster ever. Yes. It is a very old one. It's not even a year long. It's very short. But... Oh, thank you for the Prime subs, Tota. I have maxed out the sprite limit on this, which means that I can't build anymore. And it's been a thing for years now in the longest coaster, and quite a lot of people reached it as well. New elements, parks and stuff like that. But now, I can just build again here, because the tile element is larger. And this is a massive change, actually.
Oh, so you actually hit the tile element limit here, rather than...
Oh yeah, easily. The tile element is only, this is the largest park. It's only 2 and a bit layers. It's not a lot, considering to what you could build. But now I can just build again, and I can build 85 times as much as I used to be able to.
I'm not sure. How did you have the patience to build all that?
Autoclicker. And scripts. It even did the...
I would have made a plugin to do this.
I mean, I used an auto hotkey script to click where I wanted to click.
You could probably offshore
even previously, the limit was I think almost 200,000, which Yeah. You used an auto clicker, but a lot of people from the new elements and such actually hit that limit by building.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, Brian Andralzik, or CP6, uploaded a video, I think today that was, very recently at least, where he talked about some very old park, 2009, where someone did actually hit it. So it's not a new thing at all. And now
Oh
it's
no,
16
I've seen it
million.
before even. I've seen it in the RCT Holland days even, and that forum has been defunct for. I have no idea. I'm sure it was defunct by 2009. So, and yeah, I think that I saw this in 2006 or something. So, yeah, not a new thing at all.
Yeah,
It's actually
and
it was quite fun when New Element were doing their head-to-head this year. It was it sort of coincided with us changing the code which handled this limit, and one of the New Element parks hit a really obscure limit to do with the tile elements. Like when you're near the max tile elements and you create a I think it's something like more than 200 elements on one tile, then you hit a bug in the original game where it will just basically corrupt everything.
I think I did that before.
That's not that's not to do with, well, it is to do with tile elements, but it's not to do with the tile element limit though. That's a drawing artifact where if you have more than 200 tiles and they're drawing in one column of the screen.
No. This was a reallocation one where it was when you add a new tile element, it copies it to a array which is 255.
Oh yeah, I've always wondered actually. The buffer didn't seem particularly big when it was. Yeah, so this is when you have a tile with more than 200 elements on it.
Yeah, and yeah, this park hit it, but because we were touching that code at the time, I was actually able to introduce a fix just so that any head-to-head park would load correctly. So
Okay,
they
yeah,
could
'cause
continue messing.
that is an interesting thing, because years ago, I just wanted to see what happened if I placed a lot of trees in the same position with zero clearance and stuff. And I also got to like corrupt with everything. I would get like 20 entrance elements on that tile out of nowhere and 100 surface elements, stuff like that.
Mm.
I suppose that's related. Doesn't happen anymore.
I think that's more the drawing one, which Ted was mentioning as well.
Okay, yeah, well, that has been fixed, because I've been able to place more than 10,000 trees on the same position without causing anything except lag.
Was that before new save format?
Yeah, it was both before.
See, we've been doing so much stuff related to the new save format, but not the actual new save format. But a lot of these bugs, these old bugs, have been corrected.
Have you shown off the void surface element?
Oh, no, I haven't. Is the server still running? Because then I can just rejoin the server. Let's see. Can
It's
I
still
join
running,
it?
but I'm not sure if I. Yeah, I don't
There we
think
go.
the void is not there.
Oh, it's not selected. All right.
Yeah, you're better off just
I'll
going
just
into a new
go into
game.
my own park. Let's see. Let's take Six Flags Holland.
Unless maybe you can find a park that uses the scenery elements actually.
Well, it doesn't really matter. I'll show off both the scenery and the thing. Let's see. If I go advanced. Let's see. Custom is on. You know, you have the background things, which people use to make a void, and you know, because how that works is you have this thing, and if you make that black, okay, let's get rid of these trees, then it basically looks like the void. So if you do that on the edge of your parks, let's do sandbox mode, and you lower that and you place that there. There we go. We got a bit of extra void. That's how you can make your park like any shape. But now, if we go to object selection and we do advanced, there should be, oh, there we go, surfaces. You can select void and you can just make everything void. Well, if you have the money for it, I suppose. I think this was also only possible with the new save format. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, half right. That's is to say, I already introduced a few new save surface styles to SV6 because there was some room in the tile element, but I didn't add void because the thing with void is it's a bit of an advanced user thing, and I didn't want to have it selected by default. And with the new save format, you can select surface tiles at will. You can't with SV6. So just to basically just to protect the average user from doing all kinds of weird stuff, I didn't add it back then.
Okay, that does make sense, because then they'll use it and they'll be like, what the hell did I do? Where's my park gone?
Yeah, basically that. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Now with the new save format, you can select 4 new types of objects. Perhaps we can look at them in a bit more detail in a moment. But those are terrain surfaces, which like the void.
I'll load that up.
It's terrain. Yeah.
Let's see, advanced.
So
it's terrain surfaces.
Yeah.
No, I just deselect a couple. We'll see that in a minute.
Yeah, you can also select a few from RCT1 because
they're already selected and used.
Oh, right. Oh yeah. That's so that's a selection of. You can now add new surfaces if you want. You need to create some graphics, but you can now create your own if you like and use it in your park. And well, the same goes for the terrain edges. Yeah. We added the Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 edges a long time ago.
Yes.
And yeah, also there was enough room in the SV6 file format to do so. So yeah, basically it was at the time when the new save format was still a long way off. So back then I figured, well, we could add it right away, and so we did. And there's also 2 other
music.
What?
There's music.
Yeah, music. Yeah, and yeah, music.
Oh, you were still talking about these, or
no, music is fine. No, and there's also station styles. That's in between the 2.
Oh, I just skipped this because I thought it was entrances.
No, it's
we
badly need its own graphic, but it's you can now also create new styles for stations.
Okay, yeah, and of course, if you deselect all of this, you can force people to either sit in silence or only use candy style, which is of course the best thing ever.
Yeah, but that's certainly possible, but it wasn't. The intention was to be able to add more styles.
I know.
But, yeah.
You can add more custom styles now. That is actually a thing I got comments about.
You can also add more copies of Candy Style if you want. Just
make one that's slightly faster.
You certainly just remixes.
So just with 20 or 30 different types of Candy Style, faster, slower remixes, classical versions. Yeah,
we need to decide whether
sounds like heaven.
Heavy metal candy style.
We do need to decide whether we still support the custom music files, though, because now that you can have custom music by objects, do we really need custom music 1 and 2?
I don't know. That's up to you to decide. But you say you had only 4, but you actually kind of have 5, or because you also have 6, because football surfaces and football railings is different from what is now called legacy footballs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That has been a pet thing for me since the beginning, and well, got some. Ted laid the groundwork for these, and then I did most of the details and import code and stuff like that. But yeah, this is something that almost everyone that has ever played Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 misses about Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, the ability to have separate footpaths and railings. And there's been a lot of preparation before. The code was already had been separate for years to draw them. It's just that the SV6 format got in the way, which has no way of storing anything extra in the path elements. It's completely rammed. There's not a single bit left to store anything extra about paths in SV6. So this is something that we really needed that new format for. And well, you selected the invisible railings.
Yeah, I I once made an invisible path with invisible railings and called it the Jesus path when I tested out when I tested the beta version on a live stream 6 months ago. This is really amazing. You can do so many things with it, because what I did here is, for example, if you have the crazy paving, people are familiar with that, and you want to add, like, this is normal, except you have green supports, and now you have flimsy supports and yellow railings. Now you have no railing. Now you have flower power with, oh, this doesn't actually render. They don't all render nicely. Oh, there we go. Now you have flower power with futuristic railings and supports. It's really amazing. You can do so much with it.
What you selected there was a special type of circuit board railing that has only the thing under the path and a Q banner, but that's just needed for backwards compatibility with Time Twister.
Yeah, because there are two versions of that path.
Yeah, there are two. The one with regular railings and one with only a support under the path and a Q banner. And yeah, we have to make sure that every SV6 file gets imported correctly, and so we had to add two of them. But yeah,
we should mention the behavior of the railings when on the ground, and the difference between RCT1 and RCT2 services.
Yeah, that's also. You already see that with RCT1 paths that if they are if you slope them, just try that for a moment. If you slope RCT1 paths, then
you need to slope them on land. So you need to increase. You need to slope land, and then you need to build a path up it.
But there's something they did not have steps, and they did not have railings if you built them on a slope on the land.
So that's a thing.
But build them directly on. If you can build them directly on the land, just make a small hill and put them on the side.
Yes.
That's what that means.
Oh I didn't really know what they meant.
Yeah.
So you see the
this,
bottom one doesn't have, the top one does have land, and you can see the difference.
Yeah, and that's something that is different in RCT2, which does draw railings on every slope, regardless of whether it's directly on the ground or not. And obviously we had to support both types of behavior. And there's also stuff like in tunnels where RCT1 paths do not have railings underground, but RCT2 does. And
if I change this to
I'm quite stubborn and difficult, so I really desperately wanted to have RCT1 parks with the paths render exactly as RCT1 does. So,
that's a good thing.
I just love RCT1. That's basically, and 2, but now you don't have to choose. That's the thing.
But it's tied to this surface, so you can't unfortunately use an RCT2 surface and not draw the railings.
And not even if you use this. I mean, that seems to work. I just selected invisible railings.
Oh, I
It's the
see.
railings
Yeah,
that's the railings that decide the. Yeah.
That's
The railings
presumably the
decides what
workaround.
the.
I mean, it's a workaround, but it works. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right, let's see. What's our next point to?
Yeah. The only one thing is left is if you select the. For example, select the railings that normally belong to the dirt path of RCT2. If you could do that, or the S path, that's also fine. So the first one,
Oh, yeah,
you will
that's
see
both
that
the
it's still black. And what it actually is doing there is it's only drawing the support itself. It does not draw any path. And yeah, that's regardless of what path you select, it won't draw it, and that's consistent with how RCT2 did it. Yeah, some people have asked why and why their path does not appear, and this is something. If we wanted to solve this, we would have to add another flag to the path element to force it to draw the path anyway, which we could do totally. But yeah.
So if you switch to the
we
yellow
already
railings, you will get the path drawn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because those are from RCT1, which always did draw the path on supports.
Okay,
Yeah.
that is interesting because I've always wondered why these two didn't seem to work on slopes and just in the air. So that's the reason,
Yeah.
and that's why these, which are basically the same, just yellow, do work.
Yeah, and there's really no reason why it couldn't work for the others except backwards compatibility with RCT2.
And
we just have to
you'd
ensure
need
that-
another UI option as well to, toggle to say whether it should draw the path or not.
Yep.
Um,
Or just force everyone to when they're building path to draw the path, because that has never caused us any problems.
Well,
or you
I
could
don't
add an
see
invisible path object.
why would it cause problems if when people have a different surface selected, it would actually only in these cases draw this surface. If they want the black surface, they'll select the black surface, right? Or am I just naive?
No, the thing is that it doesn't actually do anything with the surface at all. And it's the railing that decides whether to draw the surface. That's also a thing. Previously all the behavior was just wrapped up neatly within a path, in a combined path. And now you have separate path surfaces and path railings, and we also have to split certain decisions. Some things are down to the path itself, to the path surface, and some decisions are down to the railings. So in this case, it's the railing saying don't draw the surface.
Okay, but I
Regardless
suppose
of
you
which surface you
technically just force it to, in these cases, still draw the surface? Or that would maybe, I don't know, give a lot of difficulty in the code. Or I don't know a lot about how that
not
works.
really. You could if you add a single flag to the path element to say always draw the surface, then
Yeah, where would that cause issues?
No, it wouldn't. The thing is that
The thing is, we can still change this. Nothing's fixed
sure.
on this.
We could
No,
start off
no.
by
It
adding
would
the
just
flag
be-
just to Tile Inspector, where it puts the path. Enables the path.
what I said about causing problems was if we would force our users to one way or another. If we were to, for example, if you were building a path like this and it would always draw the surface, then people would complain about that. So that's.
Where would that behave differently, though? What would that do differently than it is now, other than on these slopes?
It's because of these little slats. So, you see the little slats you've got. Those aren't surfaces. the parts of the railing. So how would you
Yeah.
show something on top of that? Like, say you have the crazy paving set. Does it have to know that it's not drawing the crazy paving on the little bits of the slat? We get very complex.
Yeah.
When
Okay,
you when
yeah.
you look
Just
into
for
it more,
fun,
it
just for
becomes quite a
fun,
bit harder.
yeah. Just for fun, if you select the invisible path surface now, you will just for fun, just select the invisible path surface. No, path surface, not
I
railings.
have both now.
Yeah, and now select the RCT1, the yellow. Yeah, now select the bamboo. And
Yeah.
the yellow. Yeah. Okay, look, you're now looking directly at the support structure, and if the yellow bamboo really clearly shows that's what the support structure looks like if there's no surface to be drawn, just the slats, the bamboo slats. That's the
Yeah, well, it's the same here. It's just this, but with, well, a blank surface. These two.
yeah. Yeah.
So someone asked a question, Henke. On the topic of path drawing, how does path decoration items work? Like, I suppose, I mean, like bins and stuff. How do those work?
Not how you'd think they would. They are parts of the path element rather than a separate element themselves. So that's the reason why you can't have both. You can't have multiple things. You couldn't have like bins and seats on the same path element because they're all part of one path element and there's only space for one thing. That's not changed in the new save format.
Okay. Yeah, well, bins and benches, of course, would be in the same position. But what I did try earlier, a few weeks ago, was like jumping fountains and benches, for example. But yeah, that's the same problem. It would visually work, but it's just because there's only space for one element.
Yeah.
Okay.
It could be changed in the future if there's enough demand for it, and we
Well,
feel
we're
like
already
it.
running short on space even after increasing the size of the tower element to 16 bytes. Now that we've added
Yeah,
all
but-
the extra capabilities for railings and surface, there still isn't much space to really do much with the footpath additions. So unless we separate
Oh,
the additions to a separate tower element.
Yeah. Which is
There's a
what
precedent
they've
for that
done
with the
in
banners.
yeah. That's what it's done on banners and also in locomotion. That's what Chris Sawyer did for signals. He split them out into a different item.
It does complicate the logic a bit more because you then have to
Yeah.
constantly search the tile underneath, and presumably the order of the tile elements can really confuse things. I don't know what happens if you place a banner underneath the path element.
In the drawer order.
In the tile
Oh,
element
I don't
order.
think I can do that right now. Or can I? With the tile inspector? Let's see. Banner. It's all the way at the bottom. It renders just fine.
What happens if you have two banners?
Hang on. Was it just ignored? I saw a guest walking through these no entry signs.
Yeah, it probably will ignore them because it's looking for elements above it.
Yeah, so that's the side effect if it's not in the right order.
Yeah.
It still draws it, but guests aren't taking any notice of it. Which,
And also the reason why these are going through is because you got back-to-back banners. If you got back-to-back no entry banners, then peeps can go through it.
Yeah, but
I
I've
didn't
also
do
had it, like, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, they'll try not to, but if they see it too much, then they'll just ignore it.
Okay. I suppose it's, we just answered the question, and Max asked earlier as well, can we ask questions? So I suppose we could take questions now. If you have any questions for the OpenRCT2 team, I suppose it's best if they're related to the new save format.
well, there's some already we've recorded, the ones from earlier.
Oh, well,
available.
then feel free to answer some.
Okay.
Well, the first one, when testing the new limits, more writes, more stock, etc., what GPU and CPU did you people use? What are art specs the dev team has? I find it an interesting one. I don't have a, well, I not a particularly massive system. I have an i5 6500 with 16 gigabytes of memory and no graphics card, just the onboard chip. So yeah, and if you think my computer is a potato, wait until you hear Duncan's answer.
Well, let's hear it.
I'm known for the computer which is struggles at anything. But when I'm playing the game, not that I really play the game. If I'm on the develop builds, which I debug builds, which I build myself, I'll be getting about 4 or 3 frames per second, which is fine if you're just testing something very quickly. Not really playable though.
How do you do anything on your laptop?
Oh, it's not a laptop, it's desktop. Thank you very much.
Same question.
Well, it's fine. You have to remember that when I say the debug builds are a lot slower. Like when I'm playing it with the released builds and the then I'll get like 60 frames per second.
Okay. I was thinking that you know with the build like I'm currently using, you would get 4 FPS. I'm like, is your computer 20 years old?
No, it's only 12 years old. The i5 750. Yeah.
It's at least a lot weaker than what I have.
And my friend Ross, who's in the chat, or at least was in the chat earlier, he gave me my RAM, 8 gigabytes of it. It used to be on 4 gigs until last year when he gave me that extra 4.
8 gigs isn't too bad. And Ted, what do you have?
I could do with a tech refresh. My desktop still is an overclocked i7 6700K, so it's a decent enough processor, and I actually have a 3080 now. Before I had a 1070.
That's
which
quite an
means
upgrade, I think.
Yeah, and it's useful for testing out OpenGL, because you can't really run OpenGL on integrated graphics.
No, I have a dedicated graphics card as well. If someone's wondering what my specs are, I don't really know. I know I have an i7 something, but you know I put quite a lot of effort into learning what's good at what when I built this. And I had this computer built almost 3 years ago, and then I got it, then I forgot about it. I'm no expert on that, so I don't really know what I have, except that it's quite good. Oh, and I have 24 gigs of RAM, which is useful for rendering videos.
Yes, I think I have 32 gig now. I did have 16 for a while, and then I realized I needed more because I run a lot of virtual machines. But for developers, what you really need is a fast processor with lots of threads or cores, particularly when you're compiling C++. The more cores you have, the faster it's going to compile you.
Or the other alternative is you have lots of things to do at the same time.
You just wait a long time.
Yeah. Didn't you do a stream the other day, and the compiling just broke the stream completely?
Yeah. The compiling dropped my frame rate to 1 a minute or something.
And how long did the compile take? 10 minutes or something?
I think it took 15 minutes, or maybe even longer. Can't really remember.
How long does it usually take?
Well, it takes me probably a minute, so I don't know.
A full build would be about 15 minutes for me.
It was open loco, right? I think it only takes 1 minute for me to build that. Nothing.
Okay. Next question, I suppose.
Well, I'll just walk down the list we made. Does the new save format save whichever cheats have been enabled? As far as I know, the answer is yes, it does.
Yes, and I can quickly show that. I can have all these cheats on. Oh, it still says that show all operating modes is currently unstable. That's been apparently unstable for years. I don't think it's ever caused me a crash. Lots of other things have caused me a crash. But if I now go to a different park, like Magic Mountain, lovely park, then they're all not on. And this actually does impact my workflow a little bit, because I tend to load up lots of parks, different parks with different shots. And I have to remember, I have to just change my thought process for how those cheats work. Because I tend to
this was very surprising, because we thought, okay, everyone's going to be really happy now that it saves the cheats in the save file. But now everyone's complaining that it's not persisting the cheats across different scenarios.
Yeah, both have advantages and disadvantages. And I did make like a feature request for it, but you were right to say that's probably a good thing for a plugin. You know, a plugin that, you know, whenever you open a new park, looks at whichever are enabled and also enables those in the new park. That would be very useful for me. But
yeah, and it could have presets as well.
Yeah, that as well. So if anyone can make that. No, but it is a thing, because it's very useful that they're saved, especially if you... Because I have also had plenty of parks which rely on cheats to work. For example, the no breakdown cheat. And then whenever I open them for some footage or so, and I forget to enable that cheat, all the rides break down and I need to do it all over again. There it would be very useful. But there are also places where it's not useful, and it's just, you know, having both options is useful. There's a plugin. There's already a plugin for that.
Well, I know there was a plugin that saved the cheats. I think it stored something in the map as a way of saving the cheats for the save file. So presumably that plugin could be tweaked to set the cheats that you want for every park.
Many years ago, it was saved globally, but you got a lot of people forgetting that they had their cheats enabled, and we basically decided that the best thing to do was to reset it all the time and wait until the new save format, which was just around the corner.
Hang on, many years ago, new save format was just around the corner. Oh, Marcel, do you have a PO box too, that I can send you a Christmas card? No, and I'm not giving out my address. Try a random address in the Groningen city. See if it arrives at my place. But yeah, that was that question. You have a list of questions.
It's in the bottom of the document that we use for the planning. If you could skip dependencies and pre-required work, which feature or thing would each of you wish into the game directly? I'm not entirely sure what if the person who asked the question meant with it. I suppose it's just our dream feature.
I suppose basically if you could add something right now, like inversions for Giga Coaster, and just, you know, snap your fingers and have it be in the game, what would you add?
Still sounds a bit like a dream feature to me. And if I didn't have to care about the amount of work and practical things, I would really love to have something like the Soaked expansion for Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 in this way. You just can place swimming pool tiles and actual water slides that don't have to be a complete circuit and stuff like that. It's going to be a tremendous amount of work.
About
totally
the
unrealistic.
animals.
You're Soaked and Wild. How much do I need to donate for that to happen next year?
Dear.
You could have a merge of Open Zoo Tycoon and Open RCT2, and then you might get the Wild.
You know, if an animal escapes in Wild Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, you get like a helicopter thing and you need to shoot the animal with a dart. I want to do
Yeah,
that, but shoot my guests.
That was a hilarious Easter egg of the game.
Yeah, I did try to shoot the guests in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, but I couldn't. But in Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, guests can die, so that could be an option again.
Don't you have or not enough options to kill your guests already?
There are not that many, actually. You can kill them in a crash, you can drown them, and you can drop them underground, which technically doesn't kill them. It just makes them disappear into the void, never to be seen again.
Well, that sounds a lot like killing to me, but fine.
Your park rating doesn't go down.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's if they never find the body, they can never pin it on you. Yeah.
I did make a video about that. How to kill guests without lowering your park rating, and it is quite well. Quite a lot of people are interested.
But yeah, new creative and exciting new ways to kill guests. Yeah, it's not certainly not something we would rule out or something, but not something that we would. I don't think it's something we would give priority to.
Like turn on gravity, place a scenery item high up, have it drop down onto guests. Like anvils in Minecraft.
Yeah.
Am I too sadistic?
Yes.
Okay, any more dream features?
Yeah, I'll be interested.
Probably the open graphics, which obviously is planned, but if it was just magically done tomorrow, that would be great.
Yeah, I suppose I would need a lot of graphical work. Oh yeah, this is a good question, quickly in between, from Max. He asked me that yesterday as well. Will the maximum path length leading from the edge to the park entrance be increased? I didn't even know that limit was a thing.
It might just be an interface check when you try and save your scenario.
Yeah, so I suppose it's...
I'm quite sure it's mostly limitation of AI. Just, you know how limited the AI of RC2 and frankly also OpenRCT2 is.
Quite.
So yeah, it was most. I'm sure it was put there by Chris just to ensure that guests wouldn't already get lost on the way to the park.
Yeah, when you click next stage on scenario, it will follow the path from the edge of the map or wherever your guest spawn is to the entrance, because I think it shows an error if you haven't connected the entrance to the edge of the map.
Yeah, it does.
So it's probably got a hard limit on how far it checks before it bails out.
Okay, so let's see. I currently have a park. Let me build an entrance. So yeah, if I hang on, if I do this, then it says, you know, it doesn't read the edge of the park. But if I just make this very long, I suppose I also need path in here.
I don't actually know what the limit is. So.
I don't either. I didn't even know it existed. Okay, let me get my auto clicker engaged, because that's a little bit faster. There we go. Let's go to the other side of the park. And back. Thank you guys all by the way for following. This live stream is not something that we'll be doing every week, of course. We had a lot of viewers, by the way. Up to like 270. So yeah, glad to see that a lot of people like this. Okay, so if I do this now. Oh yeah, it says can't advance to next editor stage, path from the park entrance to map edge. Either not complete or too complex. Path must be single width with as few junctions and corners as possible. That's interesting. I've never seen that error message.
We could easily increase that. There'll be a number somewhere. We could add another 0 to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's an easy one.
Just to simplify the
But obviously, I don't. Oh, you're not going to get this limit if you do it during the actual game. It's a scenario editor only limit.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if you know, open a game, and if I now, you know, change this path.
Yeah,
This
if you
is
got
already quite
sandbox
long.
mode on, you can do whatever you like. You can completely remove the footpath.
You can basically do anything in sandbox mode, and you know, with all the other cheats and stuff, I love it.
It sort of makes the scenario editor a bit obsolete.
Well, not really, because a lot of people like to, you know, play scenarios normally, and people need to, you know, make scenarios in that and use the scenario editor. And
Yeah, but given that you can use almost everything in the scenario editor is now available in game, so you could use the actual game to make your scenario.
yeah, but you know,
Kind of what I
I
mean.
suppose then you need to convert save file to scenario, but still sort of scenario editor.
Well, in
you don't anymore.
in the new format, you can just drag a park file into your scenario directory, and then it will show up.
Oh, really? I didn't know. I suppose it's useful to have all that stuff for you know,
guess
people
the-
that don't know a lot about how the game works and just want to play with a little bit more features.
Well, I think the big advantage of the scenario editor is it provides an easy workflow, and
That too.
yeah, and it's also because it's and it also really shows the user where to begin and what to do. I mean, it automatically starts with the object selection, and then you advance it will automatically open the map window so you can set a land ownership and an entrance and stuff like that. So it's for advanced players, it has become obsolete. For regular, average, or novice players, it's probably still a very useful tool.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do actually is have a separate thing for starting a new sandbox park. I mean, currently, I suppose if you just wanted a new sandbox park, big map, flat land, lots of objects selected. The rigmarole of going through the scenarios is a bit annoying. So if there was a way of shortcutting that, that'd be good.
It's the same with the track design manager and the track manager. I don't see why anyone would want to use those.
No,
But-
I always use my test park for designing tracks, because I can test it with guests, I can build underground, it looks nicer, I can do a lot more stuff.
You can place footpath and scenery as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't you place
You can also in the track designer. You can also do both of these in the track designer. Or
Yeah, I thought
What,
so.
in the
Since a
original
few years.
game?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not in the original game, no. But
can you
can
not?
in
Oh.
OpenRCT.
So who
And also
added it then?
in ASCII Classic, I
Can't
should
remember.
add, because that was the reason that people requested it. They wanted to have this in OpenRCT2 too. So a third-party contributor just added it.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
But
so
yeah,
I'm currently testing something, because Max said that if you make the path too long, at some point guests will just stop walking.
Yeah,
and-
there's a timeout that guests have. I
yeah.
think.
So I made it
And,
really long now, and let's see what happens.
well, they're only human. You can't expect them to have that much energy.
They're still walking though. They're almost at the entrance. Like, if this isn't long enough, then how long did you make it, Max?
Well, you know, you get some guests which almost just about to get on the ride and then decide they don't want to queue anymore.
Yeah, but these seem to be fine, so maybe it's been changed already, I don't know, but this works fine now, and this is quite a long path.
Right.
I seem to recall some sort of timeout on the entering the park. But maybe I'm incorrect.
I don't know.
Shall we move on to another question? Or-
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, the next one is, how much of this new save format can be applied to OpenLoco? Are similar improvements likely in the far future?
So if people didn't realize, OpenLoco is our sister project, which is doing the same thing that we've done for Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, but doing it for locomotion. And we haven't completely finished re-implementing the game. We're maybe about 50%, maybe a bit less. It's hard to tell. But in terms of how much we can actually apply on OpenLoco, not a huge amount. I don't know. We'll probably use the same sort of ideas for how we approach it. Ted, you got anything else to add?
It's quicker than OpenRCT2, just because
Yeah.
we can reuse so much of the same code that we've already written.
Are you actually, how much are we working like on OpenLoco versus OpenRCT2? Is it the same or more on OpenRCT2 or more OpenLoco?
It's not consistent throughout the year.
That makes sense. Is there a big audience for
I
OpenLoco? I've never played
on OpenLoco at all.
I don't think there's a very big audience because there's little reason to play Loco over OpenTTD at the moment. But I expect once OpenLoco has a lot of the features OpenTTD has, it might find a new audience.
But why wouldn't you just...
Just for the uninitiated, an important difference between Locomotion and Transport Tycoon in general is that in OpenLoco you can basically build all trains like you can build roller coasters in Roller Coaster Tycoon. That is, you can build them elevated, underground, whatever you like. While in Transport Tycoon and also in OpenTTD, you can only ever place tracks directly on the ground. You can build a bridge or a tunnel, but that's also a fixed structure.
Yeah, the straight lines
cannot have any. Yeah, the straight lines, they cannot have any signals. They cannot have any bends or stuff like that, or elevation. They just have they just start at this and end at the same height.
Tracks can only make 45-degree turns.
That too.
And they can't go uphill and turn at the same time.
So it's basically really limited.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, and locomotion basically, you can, if you ever tried it out, and I would certainly recommend it, then you will see that it is really basically just a cross between Transport Tycoon and Roller Coaster Tycoon plus a few extra features. And you can also see that it came out after Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, because about every object in the game can be added with can be custom. You could add custom content for about every object in in Locomotion.
For example, they have surface objects.
Which is what we've copied on our new save format.
Okay, well, I've never played either of those, either Transport or Locomotion. Maybe I should. Lots of people have been telling me to. Then again, I need to use my time for making videos, so you know. Okay, shall we move on to the next question?
This one's, if the entities are linked list, there is no innate limit in terms of entities you can have. Yeah, that's true. Except for the fact that not everything is a linked list. I was sort of simplifying things when I said that. There's one structure which is used as a linked list, which is referencing a bunch of parts of it. But it's not quite as simple as me just saying that it's using a linked list. Yeah. I didn't really answer your question, but yeah, it's not quite as easy as that.
Okay, that's it for that question.
Yeah, then there's another component to it, that another question that is related. Why we did pick the limits that we did. Most are sort of arbitrary. I mean, we obviously wanted to increase several limits, but we also wanted to keep increased memory usage at least at bay, because higher limits well, if I'm simplifying a lot, but higher limits tend to mean also high memory usage, even if you're not actually using that. Even if you're not actually having so many guests in your park or stuff like that, there's it often still reserves room in several places for potentially higher things. So yeah, most of the limits are also easy to increase later on if we ever want to.
Yeah, because
So,
currently the only limit I could ever see myself reaching is the 1000 ride limit. It's about 4 times as high as it was with 255. And Janissasaur told me that there's a reason that it's not higher, because it indeed does use a bit more memory and stuff. And if there's enough demand for it, you will increase it, I suppose.
Yeah, the new save format makes it quite easy to increase some limits that Ted can probably tell you more about. But basically, it doesn't have a hard-coded size for all things anymore. It just saves how many elements are now following. So that it can be 100 or 1000. But the SV6 format, on the other hand, had every single limit hard-coded. So in the object block, there would be it would reserve 128 slots for ride types and stall types and stuff like that. But it would reserve 128 slots, regardless of how many you actually used. It would always have that, and it had no way of specifying there were fewer of them or more of them. It was just assumed that would be 128, and that was the same throughout. And yeah, that's also something that we wanted to prevent from happening again, because we know lots will be added in the future.
That's of course a very good thing, because people have been asking, why is this limit not higher, why is that one not higher? It is possible to make them higher, easy. It's just that, someone asked about the sprite limit. It's like, why do you need more, or I should say entity limit, sorry. Why do you need more than 65,000 entities? I have a fairly strong computer, and mine can barely handle 50,000. So you won't need much more than that.
Yeah, that one would actually be quite hard to increase.
Oh yeah, because that is a power of 2 again.
Yeah.
The point is, we still wanted limits. We want to keep control of things. We've just increased the limits, and we'll increase them more if we need to.
Especially having limits is a good thing. Having people letting 1 million entities might cause some issues.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving. Oh, that's a good thing. I don't celebrate Thanksgiving because I'm Dutch, but happy Thanksgiving to everyone who is celebrating Thanksgiving. I didn't even realize it until some people on the YouTube video said that it would be on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Oh, at least it's not on Sinterklaas. That would have been far worse.
Yes. Well, I do have a lot more American viewers than Dutch viewers.
Yeah. Well. Okay. The next question is something that's something about my pet stuff again. Will you guys potentially add the old ride improvement category of research from RCT1 back in? Yeah, it's not the first time we have gotten that request. I'm going to say, sorry, Glass Tables too. I'm going to say something that you won't like. I hate that mechanism of ride improvements. So I will definitely not be implementing it myself. Would I accept a pull request about it? Yeah, probably, but then...
Would you accept a bribe?
Oh! Now, if it's... I would probably want to have some sort of toggle or something like that. There's a lot of people who don't like it. I'm not the only one.
No, I wouldn't like it
already
either.
seeing something. No, I'm also seeing someone from in a few people in the chat who don't like it. Yeah, it's something that divides opinion. I really love RCT1, but there are some, but I don't want to emulate every single aspect of it.
Well, I was
Most
going
of
to
it, sure,
emulate
but-
that best feature though, where it tells you about every single guest that can't find the park exit.
Oh my god, that was awful.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's evil.
Yeah, there
I
are one or
suppose-
two diehard supporters of RC1 who want absolutely every single feature from RC1.
I suppose that one feature would
think
really
they
help
would
if you
probably like-
accidentally like placed a no enter sign somewhere or forgot to like connect up an exit path, which happens a lot to me. Then it would tell you a lot faster that guests are lost somewhere. But other than that, it's absolutely terrible.
Well, for people that can't remember or never played RCT1, quite often you would load a park. Let's say you built a mega park. Your notification window at the bottom would just be spammed full of constant notifications saying guest 1024 can't find the park.
It's already
Yes,
being
10,000.
spammed with constant notifications about rides breaking down.
Exactly. And to have the guests also saying they can't find the park exit, it's just too much.
Yeah, there's a reason there's a Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 wasn't perfect.
I don't know if many people know about this. If you click the recent messages window,
Yes.
there's another tab.
Yes, I have some. Apparently, I have.
Oh, sorry,
Park
it's
Awards
the
disabled.
cogs, yeah, and you can disable notifications you don't care about. I added this feature a long time ago. I'm not sure how many people actually use it though.
I use it quite a bit because I just now found out that I have Park Awards disabled, which is because for some recording some footage for some video, I needed it disabled because it would get in the way. I don't remember what, but I remember that I needed it to be disabled. So it is definitely useful. Apparently I also have ride has crashed and ride warnings disabled, so I apparently don't like to hear about that. Sometimes I disable guest has died, because that gets in the way. Because sometimes that happens a lot. So it's very useful.
All right. Next question then.
Yes.
Have the devs of OpenRCT2 contacted Chris Sawyer if they could alter the game like bigger maps and such? Yeah. Well, you already mentioned that Chris Sawyer is a very private person. He's almost a recluse, you could say. It's already very difficult to contact him, and yeah. I'm not entirely sure what he would think about this.
If you want to know, it's
after all,
worth watching the I can't remember the documentary. There was a documentary.
The no-clip documentary, you mean?
Yeah, that's it. They give a statement at the end of what they heard back from Chris Sawyer.
Right. What did
Yeah.
he say?
He doesn't actually live a million miles away from where I live.
Also, fun fact, do you guys know about that video that goes over all those ride types and where they are inspired from, all the coaster types? Someone made a video on that, and they actually tried to contact Chris Sawyer about the rotating cars for the junior coaster in Roller Coaster Tycoon 1, the spinning cars, and they actually got an answer from Chris.
Yeah, I expect if you ask Chris Sawyer anything about roller coasters, he'd reply in a second.
Yeah, because that was also about real life, is there any real life roller coaster inspiration for that and stuff like that. Then apparently he replied to that. I would love to do an interview. If I interview with Chris Sawyer, that would get me a lot of views and it would be very interesting. A lot of people would be interested in that. But I'm pretty sure he's aware of my channel because someone must have told him about it, with a few times I got in the news and stuff. But I don't think he would ever do an interview, even though I would love to.
No, and if it was, it would never be in person. He likes to be very careful how he replies to certain questions.
Yeah, and
He had certain legal cases with Atari in the past.
oh really? I also heard
Yeah,
that
and
he
Tyler
doesn't.
was not paying. He wasn't paying royalties to Chris Sawyer, and also not to Frontier Studios.
Was that the reason that
yeah.
Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 was off Steam for a while?
Yeah, I think that was. Yeah.
Okay. I heard that Chris Sawyer doesn't like sandbox games and might not like all the sandboxy stuff and cheaty stuff that we are doing.
As far as I know, that's just a rumor.
Yeah, but there's also a lot of speculation and legend about him. I mean, I've never found many really strong statements from him about anything about that. Tends
Given
to
that he
be
added
quite
a
a bit.
scenario editor to RCT2. I mean, all we
Yeah,
can judge by is the cheat protection that was added.
Yeah.
When I follow,
But he removed a lot of it for Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. Roller Coaster 1 had a lot more of it, according to people who wrote trainers.
yeah, I did follow someone up about where they heard this thing about them not liking modifications, but it seemed to be more about bypassing no CD protection, and it was actually a statement from the publisher, Micropose, rather than him.
Okay,
And you can understand it when if it's about people pirating the game.
Yeah, so for all we know, he would love what we're doing.
Well, certainly people always have to buy the game before they can use it. They have to own a copy of it.
Yeah. I mean, I've bought Roller Coaster Tycoon like 3-4 times in total now. Because I had it on CD, and now, of course, at some point we lost the CD, and I bought it somewhere else, and I bought it on Steam. And then I bought Roller Coaster Tycoon 1, and I bought Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic.
If you look at the chat now, you can see what was mentioned in the documentary.
Yeah. But that wasn't the no-clip documentary, right? That was 2016.
Yeah, they cited that. According to the user, they no-clip quoted that.
Oh yeah,
at the
I
end
see.
Of their documentary, yeah. And I've also seen that Eurogame interview. Yeah. No, we didn't really have any trouble with Chris either. Not with Atari either, I must add. Someone already points out that Atari used OpenRCT2 in a stream about Roller Coaster Tycoon back when they were releasing RCT World. They did a few streams of older Roller Coaster Tycoon games, and they actually used OpenRCT2, even though they never acknowledged that on stream.
So they are
but
aware
it was
of
very clearly. Yeah, they are even. That's they're definitely aware of it. But yeah, I guess we have increased sales of RCT1 of RCT anyway. So it would be monumentally stupid of them to try and shut us down.
Yeah, it's the same thing with my YouTube channel. Technically, I'm infringing copyright.
No, I don't think you are. I think this falls under what the US law would call fair use, and
maybe because it's a building game, but it's a gray area anyway. But with
you're showing how that you're using a game. It's not that you're passing it off as your own thing or reselling it or pirating it or something.
It's the same.
You can show stuff. You can show stuff off. I mean,
if I play a song,
illegal,
then I can't show that just off. It's legally grey, but it would be stupid of them to shut me down, even if that was, in their right, because I've probably increased sales quite a bit.
At all, really. I don't think it's really completely white. But then anyway, this. But yeah, it would be monumentally stupid anyway. Yeah, don't never put that past AAA companies. There are plenty of them who do stupid things, but so far Atari hasn't. And
well, they've done plenty of stupid things, but not in this area.
Well, yeah, they seem to be mostly concerned about making money, leaving us, letting us do what we want makes them money. So yeah,
Yeah, which is very
it's
good.
in their interest.
And
Yeah,
it makes
it's in
it,
their
you know,
interest.
it makes me money, it makes them money, it makes us happy. So it's all very good. Let's see. What's the next question? I feel a lot of questions. I don't know if we can get through all of them, especially if we keep adding ones. But what
Yeah,
happens
well-
if you lower the size of the map and it cuts off some of the coasters? Do they just cease to exist, or are they still there if you were to make the map bigger again? Let's try. Before you give an answer, let me just try.
Didn't you make?
But you should try two
guess
different
first.
things: cutting off a few elements and cutting it off entirely. That's
Oh, my coasters
that's
are
two
crashing.
yeah. Well, that's what I would expect if you cut off a part of it. But I'm also very interested.
It's all gone.
Yeah, what happens if you try to decrease and have one coaster completely wiped off the map? I think that will be even more glitchy.
Okay, I've currently wiped Medusa.
Yeah, that's Medusa gone. Yeah, that should be plenty.
Okay, let's see.
I think that Medusa still.
No.
I think Medusa still technically exists in the lists.
Not in this one.
It's gone.
No, we
right.
check if the last tile, if the last track element of a ride is deleted, remove the ride.
Oh right. Okay. Well, that's fine.
Hang on.
Because it's,
Where do these trains come from? Were they? The
started
guests
from
are
the,
still here.
Yeah,
Well,
so you've deleted
the vehicles
track.
have not
The
been
vehicles
deleted.
don't get removed.
It's
Ah.
weird. I would have thought deleting the ride would also make sure
No.
that delete.
They're
I do
because
wonder
they're,
what-
because they're separate things and it's not gone through the ride deletion. They'll
No.
probably get deleted when you save the game.
This is
Well, they
very
might
glitchy.
get deleted.
Okay, let's see it in a minute. Let's see what happens here.
He's just gonna fall off.
I have an idea what happens here. Whee!
Okay, let's save this.
This is
Realistic
wonderful.
gravity there.
They're really going to their doom at a very leisurer pace, just very slowly.
I can make them
3
go to
kilometers
their
an hour.
doom faster.
No, it's funny when it's slowly. Just
Oh, they're all gone now.
They have it's funnier when it goes slowly.
Well,
They'll
they're going
just have,
slowly again.
A lot of time. Yeah.
By the way, this is still here. So one of you said that they will probably disappear, but it didn't.
It would disappear, but I was sort of thinking it would be off the map still. But since you've re-expanded it,
You wouldn't want
Oh.
them to disappear because I expect there are lots of maps on New Element that rely on vehicles.
yeah.
Okay, so
know,
let's see if what happens indeed if I do this. Then save.
Because they should end up in the void, I think.
I think it will just.
Nope,
If
still
I have
fine.
if I have to. Yeah, I'm quite sure.
It's
Yeah, that's
entirely
also the thing
void.
if you
I
do-
can't even scroll that way, but there's still things there.
Yeah. Well, that's because that void is it is actually surface elements going out that way.
Ah, interesting. This is something I never thought about doing. Look at this little bit of the loop that still exists.
Well, I think at one point it would have just crashed the game, and then we stopped it from crashing. But it's not like we recommend that people do this.
Can't open Great American Scream Machine. Exit not yet built. Yet there is a train on the track, which you can't do if you have no exit. But yeah, there's no station.
Speaking of stations, do you want to talk about the new...
What happens if you try to demolish it? I wonder.
Works fine.
Oh, that's annoying. It just works. It's.
You wanted something funny, but you didn't get your funny.
Have you tried building a ride yet with more than 4 stations?
Yeah, you did.
I have for my video, right, with 255. Oh yeah, I forgot to turn off all my channel point rewards, but someone asked me to download guess with a 9 in their number, so there you go. Let me quickly turn those off before we get a lot of stuff that I can't fulfill. Because then, you know, we have to refund them. Well, Max would probably do that, he always does that. Ask a geography question, there we go. Can you please refund that, Max? Otherwise I'll do it after the stream. I really should have prepared this better. But I just didn't think about this. Okay, there we go. They're all turned off now.
Right. Shall we continue with the questions then? Other questions?
Yeah, so I can, you know, quickly for the people who didn't see the video. You can now
build a few.
just build arrive at a lot of stations.
Which is useful for transport rides.
Yes.
Yeah, for people who really should be playing OpenDoco instead of OpenRCT2, but yeah. Another question: have you considered doing rebalancing on the right values or right costs for OpenRCT2? Well, no, we haven't considered that. I think. I mean,
every time we touch anything. Every time we touch anything which is vaguely balance related, we get so much abuse.
Well, we did rebalance the bonus footpath not long ago.
That wasn't so much a rebalance, that was more like, you know, that's how it was intended to work.
Well, it's
it
still changed a load of ratings.
I suppose.
Yeah, don't underestimate don't underestimate how much people are.
Did you actually get negative feedback on that? Because I am usually vehemently against changes, but I liked that one.
I haven't seen anyone yet.
No, we didn't. I haven't seen one yet. No, it's. I mean, it probably helps that we gave an explanation and also an investigation. It's not something we did on a whim, but then we don't really do these things on a whim anyway.
Yeah. It also helped that you know, people barely abuse that bonus on purpose, and if they do it, you know, build them, they barely know the ratings of their ride, whatever they were by heart, and it didn't change a lot.
Yeah.
We've had some third-party contributors, though, have changed some of the rating logic in the past. I think Heartline was changed.
I think all these, if we were to change something with regards to right value, it would have to be with at least a bit of community consensus about what to change and how. It's not something we would do easily or when a few people ask.
Yeah, because you know what we memed about earlier. If suddenly the Heartline had good ratings, I would not really like that, because I like the game the way it is. Or, you know, if the Giga Coaster suddenly had a lot worse ratings, it's, you know, it's what we got used to.
I don't think you would. I don't think nerfing the ratings of a good ratings of a coaster is probably I think that is likely to go down worse than buffing the ratings of something like the Heartline Twister a bit.
Definitely.
There are some weird penalties that might be removed, because like if you have over a certain number of inversions, it's just instantly a penalty.
Wait, no? That's not a thing, right?
Or maybe it's just if the length of the ride is over a certain amount, or it could just be the accumulation.
It's just if you have a lot of inversions. You're talking about the Heartline, right?
No, in general, I think.
And you know, if you have a lot of inversions and a lot of drops and stuff, you'll just get a lot of, you know, you won't get a penalty, you just get a lot of intensity from everything.
I think some of the ratings are calculated based on an accumulation of stats, though. So it means that it will get more and more intense just because your ride's longer rather than actually more intense.
Well, yeah, but, you know, if you have 20 drops, you get more intensity than if you have 10 drops.
Yeah, but they could be 20 very, very shallow drops, and you wouldn't expect that to be a higher intensity, would you?
Yeah, that is, but that's also a thing with, you know, rebalancing stats. You know, that's correct. If you have 20, like 1 unit drops compared to 10 50 unit drops, and let's assume you have the same top speed and everything on the right, the 20 small drops give more intensity, which is of course not realistic. But if you change that, then a lot of people will have to rethink how they build their rides and how the system works. And I have learned the system, how it works, and have learned to abuse it. And I suppose other people have as well. So if that suddenly changed, I wouldn't be happy about it. Because I like the game how it currently works. Then again, if that's an option, or if there's a lot of thought put into it, it could work. That's at least something that's very difficult to suddenly do and keep people happy.
Well, another thing is some people got concerns with
OpenTTD improved several. So, what I was going to say was OpenTTD improved several things as well, but made it optional. For example, the original acceleration model that Transport Tycoon used really made no sense. They would go through corners with 200 kilometers an hour without any problem, but it would slow down for even the lightest hill.
Yeah.
And at some point they implemented a far better algorithm, but they made it optional. Also because if you have an older save that was built with these older things in mind and optimized for it and stuff like that, it would come crashing down. And that is perhaps, I'm not saying this, but perhaps a better way to go about it. Or perhaps even a scenario option, harder ride ratings. We already have something with a park rating, so.
Yeah, or more realistic ride ratings. And there's also a thing which is something I have to think a lot about, because sometimes I'll say something, this works like this in my videos, but turns out whatever I'm talking about only works like that in Open, because Open has changed it and I didn't know about that. Which of course specifically makes my job harder if more and more things change. But also if people, are playing Classic for 4 years and suddenly come to Open and everything works different, then it's not really the same game but better, it's just a different game.
Yeah, I don't think we have changed a lot of that, to be honest. In terms of balance.
The major one is the bonus ride value.
Ride bonus, it's how rides younger than 13 months work, but it's also the synchronization. At the time I made my video about it, I didn't know about it. So that video says, this works like this works like this, but a lot of that's only for Open.
Yeah, I mean, we got.
Yeah, alright, but that's
like
not
that
really
change.
a balance thing.
Well, a lot of people don't like that change, and I still like to say.
I think the best thing to do with that is probably do what what Parkitect did, and just have give use the ability to say which games, which rides should be synchronized with each other.
Yeah, that's probably
that's what they did.
Good, but I think you should at least keep the option. And the old option should probably be the standard, to have, work as it used to work. Or otherwise, stuff like, the coasters in, what's it called, Diamond Heights might break.
Yeah, but, okay. But
we'd
that's something...
We'd always make imports, so that they work exactly the same.
Yeah, but that is something, of course, you have to think about. And you know that already, but... it is things that I think about a lot, and other people probably think about too.
Yeah, we have.
You missed one exit, I think, on that coaster.
Did I? Nope.
Yeah. Are you sure?
Well, it works. Every station has either an exit or an entrance. I didn't care about both.
It's concealed by a tree. I didn't see it correctly. Yeah. But anyway, we didn't change that much in balance, and we probably won't do it lightly. But still, I think coming back to the hardline twister again, it's if we would fix the balance there, it would not break many people's designs. I mean,
it would break my comedy. But no, you're right.
I'm sure you can find it. I'm sure you can find it in a lot of other places, but basically, it's not that people now have very nice hardline designs that would not work after that. I mean, they would, at worst, they wouldn't get better ratings at all, but at best, they would get, well. And it should also be noted that some rights have bad ratings because they have bad ratings in real life. Or, for example, the corkscrew coaster gets a higher intensity, and it makes sense because they tend to be quite rough in real life. I'm sure everyone who has ever ridden a Vekoma boomerang, it's like speed of sound in Walibi, can attest to that.
Well, the El Condor is a lot rougher, I can tell you that.
No, I don't think so. Actually,
Maybe not with the new trains, but
recently.
with the old trains, definitely.
I rode them with the old trains, and I found it still much more comfortable. The speed of sound, to be frank.
What?
That's sort of It has a lot of headbanging speed of sound, and I
No, it
didn't
doesn't.
really nearly have the problem with. I mean, perhaps it's changed. I'm I'm long and fat, so perhaps that's.
Well,
that's
I'm not that tall, but I
different.
do share the other thing with you, so...
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not that I'm particularly comfortable in El Condor either, because I barely fit in the seat. The bar was always too low, so I always had to slide down a bit, trying to fit in. So yeah, that's. I think we're getting carried away again.
We're getting a bit off topic. I didn't expect to be having this discussion.
I can make this stream last until 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm no problem at all. But yeah, in any case, I might improve that, but it's not likely we will make any very sweeping changes to the mechanism without at least consulting the community about it. And yeah, so don't worry about that.
Okay, yeah, no, of course, improving the hardline stats not that much of a problem, but it would still be, a bit weird to see everything currently rebalanced, and I know you wouldn't suddenly do that, but it's something I do think about, because, it is my job after all making these videos. Before we move on to the next question, by the way.
An important point for me has always been that you could load up a save from Rockers 1 or 2 and continue where you left off, and massively changing balance doesn't really fit into that.
Yeah, good one. Before we move to the next question, I should thank, quite a while ago, I forgot to do that, Storty, Bart, and now Yarsnel and Slijn for their subs, and Slijn for the bits. Thank you very much. And let's move on to the next question.
That's when is the official release out for the new save format? And I will leave this one to Ted or Duncan, because they haven't spoken for 3 hours, I think.
Well, it's been released. It's in development.
Well, I mean, they mean 0.4.0.
Dunno.
We'll do that when it's stable, really. So if you keep reporting all your bugs, and we keep fixing them, and eventually there's no more major bugs, then we'll.
I don't expect it to be that stable before the end of the year. I think it will be 2022 at when we release it.
Very pessimistic of you.
There you go again with your predictions.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Don't listen to me. It can be
We could get 100 pull requests over the next week that fix all the issues.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. But even then, we of course released 0.3.5.1 only on Sunday. So, yeah, we generally it will be quite soon, but yeah, we'll just see whatever we want to do and when it's stable.
All right, then that's that question. Next one is, my question is, would you consider merging a PR that adds new track element without a new track design format? And it's from Extreme, X7.
I don't see why not, as long as when you do try to save the track design, it says cannot save track design because it's using an element that's not supported in TD6.
But
Having said that, it's really getting time to replace that, but it's not a showstopper for new track elements. But really something we should do. So yeah.
Yeah, basically the whole of the track design code is pretty horrible right now, and nobody wants to look at it. So it sort of needs a rethink from the bottom up, and we'll do that when we come up with this new format. We'll probably have to rip out what we currently have because it's a hodgepodge of bad design.
Okay, but you know those track elements that I showed off in the video, which were medium coarse grain and medium loop, or large coarse with medium loop. You know those can and might be added. I'm not sure how far along those are.
The track design format doesn't prevent things being added to the game or things being added to a part file.
Yeah, okay, because that would be really cool. Because I did get a lot of positive comments about that. People seem to like that a lot. Those new elements. But yeah, then again, you know, it requires a lot of work from X7. I don't know how, you know, ready they are. So take your time, of course, whatever you need. But it would be cool.
Yeah, and obviously it's difficult trying to match if you're adding new elements to an existing vanilla track style, it's difficult to get the style exactly the same.
Yeah, that as well. It's, you know, you need to be quite a graphical artist for that. Which I am
good
not.
to actually add the missing versions to Giga Coaster. But obviously for the hybrid coaster, you could add the new elements just fine for that. It would match.
Yeah, what X7 says as well, it's a lot easier to add stuff for the single rail. I suppose that's because it's a really simple coaster track type, but also, yeah, it's not a thing that already exists in the game. Well, it already exists, but not, you know, in the vanilla game.
One of the other things on that is we are, of course, wanting to eventually make the tracks, which are called ride types, just to be confusing. We want to make ride types an object in themselves so that X7 can go crazy creating whatever he wants. And we don't need to introduce new code for each of these new ride types. That's something we'll want to work towards. It's not going to be ready for the new track design format, but we need to keep that into it.
It's going to take a long time.
It's also going to be especially difficult for flat rides, which contain a lot of custom code. For track rides, it would be easier to pull off for track rides.
You say that they've got a lot of custom code, but it's a lot of very simple custom code.
Yeah, fine, but it would still need to be
flags in the ride vehicle objects. But obviously, flat wides, I think that most maximum size 4x4. So adding new track types would allow 5x5, 5x4, 6x4.
Imagine a 20x20 flat ride.
Oh, we could quite easily add now, especially now we have the new save format. For example, a track element of a flat ride base of 5x5, so that you could, for example, choose between building dodge jumps on a 4x4 plane or 5x5. That's something that would be possible. Yeah, that's something that would be quite easy to add now. Previously, all the there was only room for 256 different track elements in the C6 format, and we had a few more by employing some very, very, very dirty logic to distinguish between the two, which we thankfully could remove at some point. We have removed it at some point, I should say. But now we can add new ones without any trouble. And it would conversely also be possible to make mini dodgems of on a 3x3 plane. It's all possible.
Or 1x1.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be possible. It would be completely stupid. I think by the way of looking at the graphics, but yeah, yeah. If you're into that sort of thing, yeah, sure.
I've just built an 8x8 dodgems. I mean, you had little walls in the middle, but other than that, it looks fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I've also done I've also, if you copy the there's some problems with it. You can also copy some elements in between, but they don't always cross over into the added space. But yeah, but still wouldn't be too difficult, I think.
Yeah. Alright, next question. Do developers plan on creating any new rides? I think we kind of answered that. I think X7 is kind of in charge of that.
Yeah, it's something we assist with it if some things are needed or help is needed. But yeah, that's something that is primarily done by really only done by X7.
Didn't SpaceHack do a little bit of that as well?
Yeah. You have to remember that we're mainly software people. We don't really do anything in terms of graphical art.
It's an entirely different skill set.
Yeah, so we do really need more people who can do that sort of thing. So if you're good with your modeling, we always want open graphics to go somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something we now have perhaps a bit more time also to set up and coordinate projects for that sort of thing, and perhaps also create some tools. There are a lot of possibilities now with the new save format and the extra types of object, but yeah, we haven't really scratched the surface of it yet, I think. There's so much possible, but the tooling and documentation could all do with some improving. But yeah, we have a bit more time now, so hopefully that's something we will see in the medium to near future.
Can I get a prediction from you? When?
No! I'm not making any prediction ever again. Okay. I might not keep that up, but no. It's but yeah, I
was
don't
just
have
joking.
new save format to work on and that is new save format to work on anymore. So I need to do something. So perhaps I will do that.
You know, if we're talking big picture, the entire open graphic thing, that will take years and years before it's completed. I mean, look at how long the new save format took. It's just gonna take a long time.
Well, I mean, I'm sure if you were a determined person, you could start churning out the assets.
I think the problem is it's not really got started yet. I think once it gets started and the workflow is in place and people are able to start using the new graphics, it will speed up.
Yeah. Okay, so next question. Are there any plans for improving multi-thread support? OpenRCT2 only really uses 2 or 3 cores or threads at 80 to 100% with my 9550X or 5950X when I'm stress testing with a lot of guests and elements, for example. I'm not GPU or CPU bottlenecked, but they don't really get utilized at the moment.
So at present, all of the multi-threading that we have is just used for rendering. We can't multi-thread the peak pathfinding or any of the vehicle update code or any of the entity update code at all. It's all single-threaded. So when you've got lots of guests in the park, it's not fully about the rendering which is causing the issues. It's the updating, doing all the pathfinding, which is causing the slowdown a bit. And we can't do the multi-threading on that just yet. We are working on splitting out this stuff. It's somewhat tied to the reason why we still have the linked lists for some of the fundamental structures. Yeah, we will eventually get around to doing that, and it is something we want to utilize more of.
Yeah, because I did notice that when I had 50,000 guests walking around on the grass, presumably not pathfinding anywhere to, it was a lot smoother than if I had 50,000 guests in an actual park.
Yeah,
So
and also
it
you're
is the
you're
pathfinding.
spamming them through the entrance. Realistically, a lot of your guests should be queuing or on rides, and they're not going to be using any CPU work if they're queuing or on a.
Yeah, that's true, because the few shots I've had that for, they were just spammed in. You know, I waited a bit for them to spread out, but most of them were still walking around, not on the right and stuff.
So we're still waiting for performance hits with a real park, real scenario, not just pressing the achievement.
Yeah, the problem is if you're going to have to, 50,000 guests, especially since the natural guest generation is cut in 4 after 7,000, you need constant adds. It's going to take a long time.
Well, that that's going back to the game balance thing. What do we need to change so that very large parks actually get more guests to fill it?
Yeah, well, definitely, the guest generation being cut in 4 after 7,000. It's once again about game balance. I would like to see that just removed. But that's just me, Other people obviously.
Oh, you want us to change the balance after all.
I mean, yeah, I have a personal agenda, but that's just me. I can't demand things. But
yeah,
it's something
in
that needs
general,
to be thought about.
Yeah, we are trying to make it more multi-threaded.
Yeah, that was the question actually. I suppose that's just just like a new save format, takes a lot of code and stuff.
Duncan, you forgot to say that the object loading is multi-threaded.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And the index creation.
Oh yeah.
But object loading, doesn't that only happen when you load the park?
Yeah, and it's so quick you don't even notice.
No.
And when it's creating those index files, so when you change your objects or change your language.
No, yeah.
It's also very important that the object loading is quick because it's also used in the title screen for the title sequence.
It doesn't preload the next park. At some point, I'd like to add that.
Okay, next question. Is it possible to make a cheat where peeps are forced to go on a ride?
That sounds more like a plugin, to be honest. And I think someone already is making a plugin because they asked for a couple of features which would make that possible. So expect a plugin shortly.
Okay.
Yeah,
this in general. That's what we want to do with requests that are only really of interest to a specific group of people, or things that a lot of people would really hate to have in the game. Then we tend to say you can create a plugin, or sometimes we have to add a few APIs to the plugin system, but that's one reason why the plugin system exists. You can create plugins for all sorts of things that also it's of horrors that we would never want in the game, but you can go ahead and break everything. So yeah.
Imagine just actually adding an OpenRCT2 that there's a random chance that a guest just explodes. How many people will be angry with that? Imagine the fallout.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's something which is very easy to put in the plugin. I mean, that's I wrote one plugin in total, and that is the Everything Must Die plugin. Yeah, I'm not plugging it. Pun not intended.
Oh yeah, I had
But
that at some point.
yeah. Everything Must Die was written as partly as a show of what you could do with the system, and also because the explode cheat was really something that had always belonged in a plugin. So we spun that off.
It was also not all that much of a useful cheat.
It was funny though.
It was funny. I once used the cheat to explode a lot of guests in Tycoon Park. Because I have 7,000 guests and it cost some lag, so I wanted fewer. But if a guest that's on a ride gets selected to be exploded, they only explode once they get off. And in the footage that I had, it was for the suspended coaster overviews a long time ago. So I recorded the suspended coaster, and then some guests got off the suspended coaster and just immediately exploded once I got out of the exit. And I didn't notice at all, so that made it into the video. And people commented about that. It was amazing. Okay, next question.
Okay.
Or maybe a tutorial on how to increase the limits yourself.
I think we're missing some context there.
I think that was when we were talking about how it's just an arbitrary value in the code, and we can just increase it whenever. I think if you're able to compile the code yourself, it should be pretty obvious where these limits are stored, and you should be able to.
I still wouldn't really recommend it though. You can load up someone else could load up your game, but they wouldn't. Yeah, they could potentially run into problems. So really, just better to request it and have other people upvote your thing. You can on GitHub discussions, you can do all your requests for us, and people can upvote it.
To request it and be denied.
Well, no. If it's just a higher limit and lots of people are want this.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
You would usually do that.
But I suppose, if you want to increase it just for yourself to, I don't know, see how much guests you can spawn before your computer crashes or whatever, then, you probably have some tutorial somewhere for people to learn how to compile and stuff like that. And, if you really want to, you could learn that.
Well,
yeah, I did make actually a video.
The thing with guest is that it's already, that's the entity limit there. It's currently saved in a 16-bit variable, which means that it can't take any higher values.
Okay, well, that's some
and there's
other
also
limit.
the special. There's also the special value of 65,535, which is meant to be no guest or no train or nothing. This is a special value. So that's also something that you really, if you're not aware of why a limit is at a certain height, and if there's perhaps a good reason why it can't be any higher, you're going to run into a lot of problems if you're trying to hack that limit. So, yeah, unless you know what you're doing or you have a lot of time on your hands and you're not going to bother us, don't do it. Just requesting.
All right, next question. Which ride type do you all hate the most and the reason why?
I think this is going to be the maze, but not because of how it works in the game, just how much hassle it is in terms of the coding.
I've heard about that, yeah.
Yeah, I said that a maze is about as much in common as with a balloon as it has with other rides. It's just so many exceptions in the code and so many stuff that it does differently.
I've seen so many bugs regarding mazes.
There's basically 4 types of ride in this game. You've got the flat rides, the coasters, the maze, and the mini golf.
Yeah,
and the shops and stores.
So 5, yeah.
Shops and stores, I see them as flat rides. But yeah, the code for each of those four. Yeah, it's amazing how much Chris Sawyer put into supporting those things.
Okay, is there also an
Yeah,
answer other than the maze?
Um, I think if I hating, yeah, I suppose the multi-dimension coaster did give me quite a few more headaches than others, just because it has so many unique features, and it's also a coaster that causes. I mean, you can now easily break the image limits that we already talked about, but yeah, the multi-dimension already made that possible on SV6. So many images and so much. It doesn't really add too much complexity to the code, I must say. There's a few special features, but it's really just how finicky it is and how easily it makes you go over the image limits. That make me say that. But
makes sense.
Maze is also a very good answer.
If we're on the topic of annoying things in the code, then in general, just ride mergers that the community love to use. Absolutely hate those. The amount of code we have to keep the way it is just to properly support ride mergers. It's ridiculous.
You mean
Oh,
like
for me,
this
it's
when
not
you?
so much right merge. It's the crooked house hack. It's the crooked
Oh
house
yeah,
hack
yeah,
that
and the
causes
crooked house hack.
me.
And the
Yeah.
shoestring.
Hang
Yeah.
on, my game is crashing.
Oh,
I was trying to build a wooden coaster, build custom design, but it's just froze.
I can show you on. I've got a slight variation of the client right now.
Okay,
where
yeah, close the program. It's not responding. I'll restart it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got a slight variation of the game right now where you can do a ride merge, well, without doing a merge. You can just switch ride types as you're building, and so there's no need to use a merge at all.
Yeah, basically means that every single element you place has now saved to which ride type the style is. So per piece, it can now differ per piece, but it is still the same roller coaster.
Yeah, I did see that. Is there a way that I can now quickly install that or something?
I can send you a link to it.
Because I don't really know how to custom install any of this stuff.
It's just
Yeah,
plugin
I
you have
sort of ran out of
to
time
drag it to your folder.
Okay. Well, then I'm waiting for a link, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, we can move on to the next thing whilst I get this for you.
Sure.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a thing Max asked. Can you, increasing the build height, or at least the land, and especially water height. The land height has already been increased massively compared to what it was in Classic, in Vanilla. Also what it is in Classic, but yeah, can that be increased further? Can the water height be increased?
I don't know if the interface already allows you to increase land to the maximum height that the tile element can take.
Let's see.
We still already have one byte for this, though, don't we?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. A tile element has indeed a single byte to save both the base height and clearance height, and so it can take values from 0 to 255. And I think that I'm quite sure that already the value of 255 is used somewhere. Perhaps not for land, but maybe for other. Right. So
Tile inspector will tell you.
Yeah. Basically, if we wanted to, so basically the question is if you just want to have higher land or higher construction in general. If you want to have higher land, well, obviously it will be possible because the roller coaster is already a lot higher than the land. But yeah, if it's building in general, that would require us to make those fields bigger, and there isn't really that much room to do it in a nice way. We could add a few bits extra, and then we could, for example, double the height or double the granularity. But
Imagine
yeah.
that though, like a 300-meter drop on a Giga coaster. That would be amazing.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's not a limit that the average user or even the advanced user would likely hit unless they were specifically looking for it.
I hit it quite often, but that's me. So I'm not really the average user.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So regular users, advanced users, and not mad scientists. That should cover it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Duncan, I got the link. I have no idea what to do now.
Can we
So do you see
take the
the
opportunity to talk about the black screen missing object?
Oh,
yeah.
that's a good one. We completely skipped over that.
Well, it depends if you're okay sharing your screen or not.
Well, I'm sharing my screen.
Sorry, you're like an Explorer window.
Oh, yeah, sure. Hang on. I have a lot of... let me close a few tabs. I have a lot of unimportant tabs open. Twitter can go. YouTube can go. That one can go.
So while you're installing the plugin, let's address that black screen issue. If you start up the new save format build, and if you start up the develop build, now we have merged it, and you get a black screen and an enormous list of missing objects, then your installation is broken. You most likely installed an old version over the new one, and that causes some duplication objects and other nasties. So if you have that, just uninstall OpenRCT2 and install it again. This should not remove your parks or progress, just the executables will be removed and some stuff from the game itself. And then reinstall it, and then your problem should be gone.
So if you're using the launcher, this shouldn't happen. The launcher will always remove the existing version and install the new version. If you're using portable builds, you need to make sure that the portable build you download, you extract to a completely empty directory. Do not overlay your old build with a new one. Always extract your new portable build to an empty directory and delete your old one. If you are using the installer, make sure that you uninstall the old version first by going into add and remove programs, finding OpenRCT2, clicking uninstall. Then install the new version that you download. That way you won't run into this problem.
Okay. Yeah, I just use launcher and that works fine. But it needs a lot of people have the problem. Okay, so I currently can share my Google. And because you wanted to show something?
So you downloaded the portable build?
How do I...
Okay, so this is an example of a branch or pull request that has been built by some servers, and it gives you a portable build for this sort of separate version of the game where
yeah, I've used a few of those before.
Feature. Yeah, so if you go to the bottom, you should see if you scroll down to the bottom of this page, you should see artifacts. And you want to click the run for the correct platform that you're using.
Okay. Yeah, it's downloaded that. Well, it's downloading because it's fairly big.
So this is the same as a portable build, and anyone that
Oh, that's
downloads
simple.
a portable build, when it's finished downloading, you need to make sure you extract it to a empty directory.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I didn't know I could scroll down. I didn't try. You would think I would be good at that stuff by now, but apparently not. But I know how to install portable builds, how those work.
Yeah, this particular one, because things are it's compressed twice, so it's a portable build inside of a zip of another build.
Let me just
But you'll see that as soon as you open it up.
extract the zip. Hang on, where's it gone? Out there. And then install. Yes. Now I suppose I could go back to sharing my Rollercoaster Tycoon. There we go. I'm not very good at this whole the streaming thing with the different scenes and stuff. Earlier someone said as well, you know, like Poggers Move or whatever they called it, just recording Discord instead of having an overlay. I couldn't quickly find an overlay, so I just decided to record Discord, and it works. Also, thank you for the bits down under. Oh, we got a raid. Thank you for the raid, Buzzo, and welcome everyone. I'm currently interviewing a few OpenRCT2 developers. Well, it's not really an interview. Oh, thank you for the gifted subs to Brox, Max. Okay, I'm currently running the new... Oh, it's black. I got the black issue.
Ah, see. That's because you've must have pasted it on top of a release one.
It's in a separate folder.
Well,
Oh, I did the install.
you're still running the old version of the game.
I'm running both versions.
Yeah, I'm not. It shouldn't be an issue, but it's probably best that you close the old version down.
Hang on, what if I try this? Does this work? Oh, there we go, that works. Now we're hearing two versions. Let me close the old one. I think you should see this one now. Yes. Oh, thank you for another gifted sub, Slime. Oh, thank you, Buzz. I feel like this one's a bit loud. So let's go to Six Flags Belgium. And let's lower the music. There we go. Much better. Okay, so I should have that new feature here.
So first of all, what you want to do is enable the cheat out of a ride type.
Yes. So I think I see it, because if I do this, I can select anything. So if I now go to a laydown coaster, I suppose you can more easily see it. Okay, so the ghost is still wooden coaster.
Yeah. So the ghost, I've not quite corrected that part of it, but when it actually places it and what it shows you in the little preview, it does have the correct one.
Yeah. That's interesting. This is... I mean, I saw a little bit of you showed that. But this is really cool. You can... Because it still does the elements of the wooden coaster. Wait, I just got 43 subs by someone. Hang on, that's not true, right? I don't see that. That would definitely be worth a mention, but I do not see that. Oh no, it's indeed not true. Anyway, you can still build the elements of the wooden coaster, but it just doesn't show up if the coaster that you're building doesn't have them available.
Yeah, so it's, as I said, it's still a bit of a work in progress.
What ride has every element?
What ride have everything? I think a Twister coaster has a lot.
Yeah.
So if you start off from a Twister coaster,
We now have the Twister available. Corkscrew has quite a lot. Then if you then switch to Twister here, what's it called? Twister. And then you just do a corkscrew. Or, you know, you switch back to, I don't know, a stand-up halfway. It'll be somewhere here. There we go.
Yeah, but
Now
you
you
don't
got-
have all the options in the list, do you? Like, you can't do a large half loop, can you?
No, because the corkscrew doesn't have it available.
Yeah. So if you actually build a twister coaster,
Yeah, let me see.
then you should get a much
Need
larger
to
list.
select that. Yeah, the reason I didn't do it because I needed to select it, but I suppose that's not a lot of work. Where is it? Oh, it's twister
But yeah,
coaster, not steel twister.
this is how we can start to get rid of ride mergers and get people to be using
Yeah, this is a
a
lot
lot more
easier.
ride.
We can't really get rid of them, or at least not, because of course there is a lot of SV6 files around that have them. But
Yeah.
this is hopefully something that will cause fewer problems to both the people who use merges and to us. So at least if it goes wrong, then it won't be as much of a problem anymore.
This is a perfect vertical loop.
I
Absolutely.
need to turn it
Not-
into a launch mode as well.
That's
Yeah, I'm
not.
surprised that even works. Because I thought that it would fall off. It's usually
Let's see, power
fall off.
launch. 93 is fast enough. The ghost track thing. Yeah, works perfectly.
I think the inverted track, presumably, it's just offset. Other than that, logic's the same.
Yeah, it doesn't follow the inverted track at all. It just follows the twister track that isn't there. Oh, thank you for the 231-bit slang.
But
yeah,
the other benefit of this is brakes will work with your merged track and everything. You don't need to do anything special to handle block brakes.
oh yeah, that's definitely a good thing. But yeah, this is one of the examples of what you can do in the future with all this stuff. And this is pretty amazing. And this is of course only one example. You can do so much more. And you can expect a lot of exciting features at some point.
Oh, so it's actually some good use of the Heartline.
The Heartline is really good as track architecture in some things. Oh, we got quite a few bits. Thank you for the 60 and 420 bits, Wave B and Max.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing which I don't like when I open up like a new element park and they've got so much track architecture and like merged rides, and you look through the ride list and then half of the rides are not actually the ride.
Half?
So, like,
That's really conservative, more like 80%.
Okay, 80%. But with this, I mean, you could just have one ride, which is purely used for track architecture for the whole game. I guess it's not really much of a concern now that we've got 1,000 rides, but
That means we probably should add the option of being able to place a new track without, because otherwise you have to build your track from A to B.
Yeah, that's the main reason. You know, people might have like 5 different Heartline coasters for track architecture for one coaster, because it's easy to identify which bit is which bit, because you can name them and you don't have to build them from A to B. So that's still going to be a thing.
But you could sort of tie them together and group them.
Yeah, you could, but yeah, that I don't think that's really necessary, especially now. You know, it would be cool, but with the 1,000 ride limit, who's gonna hit that? Well, I might, but I suppose with larger parks.
You kind of want to be able to filter them out in the ride list.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people have
that's what I
a certain way of doing it, like they might put a circumflex at the beginning of the name to indicate that it's not right.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Do we have another question? I think I accidentally closed the list, so it's up to you guys. You should still have it. Let's see. Ah, there we go. There's the dock.
Is it impossible to create a more realistic water park i.e. staircases for humans to climb, no tubes on some slides, wave pools, etc. That's the only thing I think is missing from making the game realistic to actual parts.
Well, we did mention that earlier, but
Yeah,
because the dream thing.
I mean, People
yeah,
already do such a good job anyway, don't they? I mean, you use a real footpath to do the steps, and then you can use, a mixture of dinghy slide and various other things.
Yeah,
There's some vehicle objects that look like peeps.
yeah, I think it'd be good to introduce some ride modes which sort of return the vehicle back to the start for slides and things like that, so that once it gets to the end, it goes to some resting area where it
I
disappears.
mean, like boat hire.
But it doesn't disappear on boat hire.
Yeah, it's a bit like Spiral Slide.
It would still be awesome if we could have if there was actually a real pool complex where people actually changed into swim gear and indeed walked around and got up staircases, because they're currently going to up staircases clothed if they're in a if you just hack a ride.
Presumably you can color a peak with...
You can approach it currently, but it would still be nice to have it to have support for it in the game. But yeah, that's not going to be a little bit of work, and it's probably also not going to be a average bit of work. It's quite a large project. So I could, of course, say we'll have finished in a year, just like I did with the new save format.
Nope.
No, I won't. No, I won't. I'm not even going to promise we do this. But if you're talking, would I like it? Oh yeah, hell yes. So, would love to have this.
But yeah, it's a lot of work, and as I've said before, you're all just a bunch of volunteers who are doing it in the spare time, and at that point, no matter how good you are at coding, and you guys are really good at it, you only have so much time. So, at some point, you can't do everything. Okay, we have one question left on this list. Could the water be in the tile inspector and allow half heights?
Yes.
Okay, that's a really easy answer.
Yes, it could. Yeah, I mean, there's a few things not in the tile inspector which we would certainly welcome. A very jarring thing is that you cannot set the clearance height of a tile, which would probably be tremendously useful.
Probably would be, yeah.
But that just doesn't happen to be implemented yet. But yeah.
Okay, that was quite an easy answer. We got a question again. Will there be more custom rides? When people make them, they could be added. But they could be added as actual custom rides, not as just reskins of a swing inverter ship or whatever, which currently already exists. But they could be actually their own ride. But people would have to make them, do all the pixel art and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then that's sort of going to our, as we said, we're trying to bring out bring it out into a sort of a separate object file where other people can write that code and not have it in the base.
Yeah. Basically have it work like custom senior items do now, right?
Mm.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier to test because you can just keep, you don't need to recompile the game.
Yes. Yeah, no, don't worry about that, Super Magnetons. I mean, you might not have been here all stream. You can't necessarily know that it's been asked before. But we're through our list of questions, so we've been doing this for over 3 hours. I don't know how long the other roundtables were in the past, but 3 hours is quite long. So if there aren't any more questions, or if you don't have anything more to say, then I think we could you know, go towards the end of this. But do you have anything more to say about this?
No. I think that we probably, even though we have taken more than 3 hours, probably I'm sure that once we stop this stream, that we notice several things that we haven't even said anything about.
Oh, obviously,
So-
that always happens.
Yeah.
Someone
I
is
mean,
asking for an OpenTTD crossover around table, possibly.
Yeah, that
I
would be
know
good.
OpenTTD are doing regular live streams now.
Oh, right. I mean, we don't have a lot of contact with the developers of OpenTTD. I mean, there's I'm occasionally on the GitHub for an issue or something, but yeah. And they and I also after reading their dev logs on on their site, I also sort of nicked that ID for last month in OpenRCT2. Yeah.
Okay, so then that's about it. I thought it was very interesting, this live stream. We had a lot of viewers, we're still over 200, and a lot of cool questions, and a lot of things I didn't know either. So, yeah, I want to thank you for doing this. And, you know, answering people's questions and stuff like that. And I want to thank you for all the work on the new save format.
Yeah, well,
Thanks
I
very much.
should also, yeah, well, thank you very much. But I should also say I mean, I think that the 3 of us did the most, but certainly not all of it.
Oh no,
There's also,
definitely not.
some, yeah.
Lot of
So I
people.
should also should certainly thank Matt and Proxier because they have also done some contributions. We also had, of course, a few people who tested it out and reported bugs when we were developing it. So certainly thanks to them. So yeah.
And of course, thanks to you for hosting us today.
Oh yeah.
Oh, a pleasure.
certainly.
So, yeah, that's it for this stream. I want to thank everyone for watching. And I'm not going to rate someone today. That, you know, we might do that on Sunday when I'll be live again. And I'll see you in the next live stream. Bye-bye.